flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item, we have appointments. So the first thing we have on the agenda is new appointees to the Recreation Commission, Historic District Commission. So I know we have Craig Barlow and Dan Doyle.
And Virginia.
And Virginia Morse. Oh yeah, she's not on the agenda, but I remember signing off on it. So what we've tried to change in the past is people were getting appointed to all these commissions, and half the time people had never even met them or seen them. So I know both of you are very familiar faces in town, but would you like to just come up and introduce yourselves real quick? And your reasoning for being on the commission or the board.
All of us at once?
Well, one at a time. Why don't you start it off, Virginia?
Probably the longest serving member, so. My name is Virginia Morse. I live at 188 Main Street. I've been serving on the Historic District Commission for longer than I could track down. And I've served with Ellie when she was the selectman's rep. I've served with Glenn when he was the planning board rep, and now he's our selectman's rep. Our Historic District Commission participates in lots of training for the certified local government credits and hours that we do. I've trained at the state level in person. I've done a number of online courses. As I said, I've worked with the Historic District Commission for many, many years, and I don't know, maybe you have some questions you'd like to ask.
Well, it's also, since I'm your rep to the HDC, and I was for 17 years the planning board's rep for HDC, so I'm very familiar with that board and with Virginia's work, and I mean, she chaired that board for many years. She's currently the vice chair. Has done an incredible amount of work on the commission. And in case the rest of the board, maybe some of you don't know, most boards and committees in New Hampshire have no requirement for any kind of background or certification or anything like that. Historic District Commission is one of the few that actually encourages, doesn't have any formal requirement, but it encourages members to have an interest in historic preservation and have some knowledge of it, and Virginia certainly has that, and she lives by it because she lives in the historic district and participates in it. So.
And we've collected quite a significant library of resources that we keep actually in the town library, so citizens can access those at the town library, but they're also at our fingertips, if you will, for our board members for information and for applicants who come who want more information. And we have some resources for what your house used to look like, all the way back to the teens. And so we have some wonderful ways to help people understand what their house used to look like, how could it be changed, how could it be new, how could it be returned to what it looked like. And so I feel like we really have a way to support the people that come that are applicants.
Okay. Does the board have any questions or comments?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve Virginia's reappointment to the Historic District Commission for a 3-year term, and I believe, Susan, you've started or you've got it underway, the new appointment paperwork.
It should be in that.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll second that gladly.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you for all the work that you do for us.
Susan, am I correct in remembering that Tammy swears us in if we take that piece of paper?
Yep, we'll get that to Tammy. Did you want to take it down? We'll take it down tonight. If it's all signed it, you can take it with you.
It's probably signed if you
Yeah, we just have to need some paper.
you do need to make a copy of it.
Yeah. I'll get a copy. Almost done.
Okay.
She always copies it for me. 2 minutes. Yeah.
Dan Doyle, would you like to come on?
Good evening, Dan Historic District Commission. I've been asked numerous times by our fine leader back there to be a part of it, and I said yes, I would like to be a part of it since I do live in the Historic District and have a fondness for our history in the town here. So that's why I'm volunteering for this position.
And Dan lives in one of the most historically significant homes in the town, the Josiah Bartlett House right across the way.
Correct.
So, like I said, I don't think you're a stranger to most of us. But
No.
Just figured. There's no other questions.
I don't have any questions. I know that several of us on the Historic District Commission have asked Dan on various occasions if he'd be interested in serving. And one day he came to a meeting and he said, I think I'm ready. So I will make the motion to appoint Dan Doyle to the Historic District Commission for a 3-year term as a regular member.
legal agreement that in order to authorize you to build another full-time year-round residence while the other one is still existing, the town would want this agreement to be this contract to be engaged in, and also it would require you posting either posting some type of bond that should you refuse to do the demolition yourself at the conclusion that the town would have bonded funds that it could conduct a demolition and not absorb the cost of that project. And that's what's been given us as legal advice by town council. And now we understand that you may want your legal counsel to review this before you agree to sign into anything.
Sure. So the question that I would have, because I was the one going back and forth with Jess about this stuff, and he said he was going to talk to legal, and then he resigned. So I sent him a couple emails, never heard back, and then we got this phone call.
Yeah.
I had said to him, like, I would, like, we'd be willing to sign, like, any kind of contract that would state, you know, you can hold the OC for the new place until this one's torn down, or once this is completed, we have X amount of days to start raising the other building in order to guarantee that it's going to come down. I mean, the end game is to have one building on there. We want to get rid of the seasonal. We don't want to have that. And also, when we're spending this kind of money to build a house like this, the last thing I want is a view of a house that's starting to come apart. You know what I mean? So yeah. It's like the whole point of building on the lake is to build on the lake and see it, not have the view. So it's not like we aren't trying to pull anything over. I think 40 grand sounds a little high. I mean, we'll have our lawyer take a look at it.
We didn't get a real.
That was just, we were waiting on a true estimate to come back. So, but we had to put money in it as a placeholder. So okay. The town has asked for an official quote of what it would cost to demo that property, and that's why it's highlighted in this copy. And we did. I know all that information that you had presented to Jess, talking about those, you know. And we made sure legal got all of that before they came back with their guidance. And essentially the legal said that this is the only enforceable type of thing that the town has any teeth should what is promised to happen not happen. And for us, we have to look at, listen, we're 5 part-time selectmen who have other lives and jobs. This is an ancillary duty that we contribute to the community, so we're not professional. So for us to, on behalf of the town, to potentially go against what legal is recommending, you know, it would be hard pressed to happen. If we engage legal services, we tend to follow it.
Sure. Okay.
All right. So this has been, like I said, this has been reviewed by town council. We obviously understand that number could change once we get a real estimate, but you may want it. But we wanted to make sure we didn't just say, hey, bring you in here tonight because we understand there's already been significant delays that you've been experiencing. We didn't want to come in and say, hey, well, we have an idea that we'll have legal draft up a contract. We wanted to have something for you to take with you. So that would allow you to get things moving if you decided you wanted to go this route.
So at the end game is if we decide we have our council look this over and we end up signing this, does that pretty much just give us the permit at that point?
That seems like all the requirements would be met at that point to grant the permit to move forward.
Okay, so, okay. Now,
and we do have part-time building inspector on staff right now while we're looking to hire full-time, so we do have somebody that can authorize, issue permits, and do inspections.
Okay. And do you know the turnaround time on something like that from time of signing? Because I know it's highlighted, so you don't have a final.
Because you guys already have the application and all the data in. I think once we have an executed notarized contract, I don't think there would be any holdup.
Okay.
And we could ask the temporary building inspector to review the plans in the meantime. I mean, we need to get next Monday, so if your council got it back to you within the week, you could come back here next Monday.
Yeah, and then
move forward.
Yeah, if you were agree to sign off, the board could then agree to sign off at our next meeting if everything was met.
Okay.
Do we know when we can expect a true number to plug in there for the demo?
He was going to get it to me on Friday, and I reminded him, and he said he'd have it today, and so.
Okay. So we should have it within the next day or so.
Yeah, he didn't think it was going to be a difficult thing to do. He just had
okay,
so to do it, I guess.
So If they want to reach out to Susan?
Yes, yeah, I think, or, yeah, if Susan, if you, as soon as you get that number, could you relay that to them?
Okay.
And then you could, if their attorney, obviously, if we input the new number, obviously you could forward that directly to them or into their counsel, so it's written in the contract appropriately.
When's the next meeting?
It's it's next Monday. We have one next Monday.
And is there any filing or anything that we need to do to make sure we could be involved in the meeting and not?
No, we're telling you right now,
Yeah,
we have
no.
our secretary here, and.
Yeah.
I'm just making.
I don't
It's very different than the planning board deadlines. Planning board deadlines has requirements to get plans printed, approved, and all that stuff and reviewed.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much, you guys are at the finish line. We just needed something that gave the town the ability to ensure what's supposed to happen happens.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item under appointments is Robert Pellegrino. We've asked him to come in to have some discussions.
No, he was
We are-
aware of it, he had the option.
Yeah.
If you have paperwork, doesn't sign out, come back.
Oh, we
is it
can,
ready?
oh, sorry, it might be right here.
It's probably right here. I'll give both of them.
Yeah. So I guess with this agenda item, the board will be discussing some issues that have been brought to the board's attention, or maybe a continuation of some other issues. We did give Mr. Pellegrino the opportunity to come here and speak. We did notify him that we would be discussing the property regardless of his attendance. So the items at hand that have most recently, and so a lot of the board is very new. Apparently there's a history with some of this property. I remember dealing with some of the issues during phases of construction on the planning board side, but some most recent items that have been brought to our attention that the board was made aware of last week or just prior to last week, and so we wanted to make sure we talk about that. There's indications that, and he may have been having conversations with the previous building inspector, but one of the main concerns is at 13 Lefebvre Drive that they do not have an occupancy permit. They have not paid any, so there's people currently living in there. They got a building permit. My understanding of what you can find in the files right now is a building permit was issued for a single family residence. Then it's now they're occupying it without occupancy permits while continuing to work on it, and we have essentially a multifamily home that has not paid any of the necessary impact fees.
Surprise.
So are they living in both the house and the ADU?
That is my
I
understanding.
think so.
Okay, I don't, just so.
Well, the ADU just needs to meet the square footage requirements and egress and so forth that's outlined in our
Yeah,
regulations.
the updated plans need to be submitted so they can
But
review
right,
to make sure that they
that's
comply
exactly
with
correct.
the square footage requirements of the ADU.
Which is why a building permit an occupancy permit has not been issued, because those plans have not been updated.
But
Nor has an impact fee been paid.
yeah, and
Right,
so
this is
But the
two-
people living in there, there's no occupancy permit. That's what the bottom line is, right?
Correct.
And no impact fees, as Glenn just said.
correct. So with our public works director here, are they currently getting trash pickup there?
They should not have a barrel.
Well, I agree with that,
But do
but
they?
do they?
There's 7 barrels in town, I don't know the location of every single one of them, but I assume no.
So without Mr. Pellegrino here to offer any, actually, I'd like our town planner may be able to, do you have any history to offer on this one
Everything
at
that
this
you just
point?
said.
Is correct?
Those are exactly conversations that Jess and I had. It is
Glenn?
odd.
Yeah, what do you say? Sorry, you gotta,
You know the drill.
Yeah, yes, I know. Stop. Everything that you've stated is correct. the issue here from the planning perspective is, the question is to whether or not this is a duplex or a home with an accessory dwelling unit. Because honestly, an accessory dwelling unit, whether it's inside the unit or detached from the unit, is an add-on to the unit. And this seems to be something incorporated at the time of building. So it's actually a duplex under the guise of an ADU. Now, I'm not trying to draw a fine line on the issue. My concern is exactly what's been expressed. The floor plan I've been shown makes it impossible for me to determine whether they even meet our ADU guidelines for the internal unit. So I couldn't help Jess in that way. I told him that he would need to get better plans, which I believe is the challenge that
has been requested, whether.
That's right, it's the challenge that you guys are dealing with right now.
So because I guess with the ADU requirements from the planning board side, if they're building it, even though it's gonna be connected to the building, if they change the plan substantially enough where it added on an entire another section of the home as to what would that be something that should have gone to planning board review?
Yes.
Because you're changing the footprint.
An ADU, if it changes the footprint, requires a conditional use permit from the planning board, or if it's detached. Now, if he ostensibly submitted a plan from the get-go that showed the ADU, then there is no change. It's a really fine line between whether this is a duplex or an ADU. A duplex is allowed in that district. It's not, so he's not in non-compliance with zoning. But it does seem that this is an odd way to create.
Is that a single story home, that one? Do you know off the top of your head?
You can't tell from the drawing. It appeared to me from the drawing that I've seen that it's a single unit, except there's a ton of staircases, and then that leads me to believe it's not a single floor unit. And so those are the things that just make the information that we have impossible to deal with.
And I will say that the ADU laws, the way that they changed in the state and then the town adopted, I mean, it obviously granted people a lot of latitude. It essentially allowed every home to become a multifamily.
Right.
Barring some.
Almost every single family house could become a duplex.
Yeah, but if obviously if the plans are substantially different than the original building plans, if they added on significantly to that, so I think we have two items here. At the very least, we have to issue a cease and desist on
using the structure
on use and any construction that's happening in the ADU if it's different than what.
Yeah,
I don't know, in a situation like this where we have people occupying structure that's not authorized to be occupied, does the town have a duty to notify the utilities that they're supplying to a non-occupied structure?
There is nothing right about whatever is going on with that. Because there's not supposed to be humans inside that unit. There's no occupancy permit, which I guess it can be confusing, but it shouldn't be confusing.
And who didn't the California CCD made a statement that way because
I believe the Jets told me he said that, but I was not in.
And we obviously know that is not.
Because you had the habit of confusing Massachusetts law and New Hampshire law, even though the two are never the same.
So I think we need to, there may be kind of a multifaceted. One for the occupancy, one for the. There are multiple people in this for the main structure.
My understanding.
No, my understanding is
My understanding is there are no
Occupancy permits.
Okay.
And somehow that is construed as saying you're allowed to occupy it. I don't understand.
How long has this building been in existence?
Well, it's fairly new, it's not like Main Street, no, it's fairly new.
And the other question is, if someone doesn't pay their fees, their impact fees, and they're supposed to pay them before
They get the
They're supposed to pay them before they get the occupancy.
If the plans were okay, but he hadn't paid the fees, they're still illegally living in the house.
Yes.
They would be signed off.
Yes, they will have not, have completed all the requirements that our ordinance places upon that unit.
And I don't suppose in history yet, since they're relatively new, that we have done any kind of an enforcement for somebody who hasn't paid the impact fees.
We
I
haven't
don't
had too
know.
many situations like this, Chuck.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
We probably
yeah,
haven't
right.
run into it, so-
They all eventually, we've had the conversation with several property owners, but they've all been resolved
Eventually they
before the units were occupied, is my understanding.
And, I mean, in this case, I mean, we don't even have to get into the nitty-gritty of the impact fees at this point. I mean, the first violation is the fact that they're occupying the structure with no occupancy permit. And at the very least, that needs to stop. And all the other stuff then needs to get sorted out in order for them to be able to get a CO.
I think if we're gonna do a cease and desist, we do it for both.
Yeah, so,
Because we don't want them to get the permit, and then, which they shouldn't get without the impact fees, but, and then
no, the impact fees come before occupancy, but at the conclusion of building.
we just go after him for the building permit right now. People are gonna stay in the house, he's gonna get the okay and the impact fees may or may not have been.
People have to vacate the house. You know what risk it puts the town of Kingston in, to know that they're occupying an uncertified house, if you will? It's huge.
So I think we need to, vote on a cease and desist that orders them to immediately cease occupying the building without the proper occupancy permits. And we also need a cease and desist on any construction activities that are happening outside the scope of the originally approved permit, as approved. Meaning they shouldn't be doing anything, if they added on for the ADU or they're doing any construction that alters the original plans that were submitted, that should be a cease and desist for that. Now, I don't know what the town's, if we vote to issue that, I don't know what the town's follow-up is to how you actually vacate somebody out of there, because I imagine that, with my day job, the only way you can ever seem to physically remove somebody out of the house is through the order of a Superior Court judge.
I'm assuming that if you guys vote the way you just suggested you voted, that tomorrow somebody will be contacting council?
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
If
a
not
really good
tonight,
idea,
Glenn.
because evictions, like they never go easily or per a plan.
But we need to speak to council because we may.
That's a separate issue. I think, if you're going where I think you're going, okay. Public Works Director? Former selectman?
With regards to a cease and desist, the town can assess daily penalties. Your likelihood of recouping those penalties is low, but at the minimum, you could be covered for your legal fees and any additional enforcement actions that are required because they don't have an escrow account or anything like that set up. I do believe Attorney Kalman made one for us about 1.5 years ago that was pretty rock solid, and we had used, well, it was probably 2 years ago.
Pretty
Time
standard.
flies, but
Couple years.
there's a good one out there somewhere. But it lays out, it has reasonable fees and structures, and it cites the RSAs where those come from.
Can we attach the house bill for those fees?
I would not do that as a first step.
No, but if we don't have.
If necessary, yes,
resolution-
if a Superior Court judge does find in the town's favor that the fees were warranted and are due to the town, then it could be attached at that time.
Okay. So then I guess, I'll make a motion, and then we can have some further discussion if we feel like it needs to be amended. I'll make a motion that we order a cease and desist regarding 13 LaFave Drive, ordering the occupants to immediately cease living in the building without an occupancy permit, and order them to stop all building or construction unrelated to the original building permit on file with the town of Kingston, and they be notified that failure to comply with this cease and desist action can result in daily penalties, and they will be provided documentation regarding the penalties that may be assessed.
Second.
Any further discussion? Do we think that covers it for this portion?
Yeah, I would call council first thing in the morning though,
Yeah.
because we will need some help in expediting
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I think council should probably
Draft it.
draft the cease and desist.
Correct.
Are you going to do another one for the fees? I don't.
I think if we get that letter that was Calumet that outlines what the fees can be assessed, we can provide, you know, because
There are
the motion will at least cover us to have town council incorporate that.
And actually
I'm
take
talking
it.
about the impact fees. Why are we not doing?
Well, no, they can't get the occupancy permit until they pay the impact
Well,
fees.
it's gone this far.
Yeah.
Are we gonna trust the fact that he's gonna pay the impact fees?
We are not
Yeah.
trusting anything about that, Jeff.
But we have to issue the order, then we go down the road of non-compliance with the
Right.
order. So we have steps we gotta follow. I don't think we can handle it all right now. We have to offer some opportunity to comply with the order. So any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimous. So the other, I know some members of the public who also live in LaFave Drive had reached out with some other concerns. I did speak to one of the homeowners of 8 LaFave, and then number 5, 8 for the Ingalls?
9.
Sorry, I don't know. Oh, okay, 7,800.
Okay.
So, and, you know, we have been discussing some potential issues, and I said that, you know, the board, so based off of all the information we currently have, these are the items that we feel that we have direct purview under of the board. I know there are some other allegations which may be from some of the other buildings, which may be a civil suit between parties, but that can't be addressed by the board at this time. So I just wanted to make sure everyone aware. Yeah, understandable. Okay. The other issue that the Public Works Director wanted us to bring to attention is now this project is 12 years old. And I know during a civil suit, a lot of the first phase bonding money was surrendered to other parties, and the concern for the town at this point is the cost of paving has probably almost doubled in that time frame. And does the town have the ability to go back and seek the bond to be increased to cover, because if we've had numerous compliance issues and there may be other civil suits pending, this type of project is a potential flight risk for the town and could leave the project, and then the town is left finishing the pavement, which still wasn't finished from phase 1, and then any of the bonding that was required for phase 2. I don't know our legal recourse to go back and change the bond.
We'll need to talk to legal counsel to address that.
Right, and my guess is it would probably take legal action on our part to go after them.
Okay.
But
If there's
unless the agreement had some sort of clause or escalator in it.
because the chances of there being any funds to go after is going to be slim to none.
Yeah, and listen, I always like, despite even when you have compliance issues, I don't always like to assume that more bad stuff is going to happen, but you can only put your hand on the hot stove so many times. So I think that is a question we may want to have, if Glenn, from the planning board side, if we could pull up any of the documentation related to the bond or any meeting minutes related to the bond, and we could pass it on to legal counsel just to ask, does the town have the ability to reassess a bond, you know, if a certain period of time applies, especially with changes in market conditions of what it would cost, or is it too cost prohibitive to try and go after that? So I think we should probably have legal at least review it. And for Phil, if maybe we could just get just so we have the updated numbers on possibly what paving would cost, or to stabilize whatever the town would be required to do as part of the bond.
Is there still construction? I've not been down the road, so I don't know. Is there still potential?
Yes,
There's still potential for more houses to be built with it.
There is, but I don't want to say, oh, well, we could always say, unless they do a new bond, we're not going to issue any other building permits if it's illegal for us to do that. We need to know what legal footing we have to alter the terms at this point, or request an update to the terms, so, because we don't want to step in it and say, hey, yeah, we're requiring something we're not legally allowed to.
Glenn, is it the final binder that's missing at this point?
I'm really not sure. That's a better question.
I shouldn't say
For phasing, yeah.
The top coat.
That's better directed to Dennis. That's better directed to Dennis, and I'm happy to talk with him. But if I talk with him, it has to be soon, because I believe he's leaving, so, I will try to do that on Thursday as well.
Yeah.
I think Thursday is our last opportunity.
Because I mean, are we at a point where it's been so long that just applying the final binder, the top coat, isn't gonna be enough, and there would need to be reconstruction, or,
Right.
you know?
Our bonding is very clear that it's always associated with actual costs. So although I'm probably the first person to tell you you can't change a lot about planning board approvals, we are really clear in our bonding that it's all, we try to be very realistic in making the costs, because people deserve that.
Yeah.
So,
and I will say the town's been very, you know, we had some stuff come before the planning board where we said, hey, well, you know, you don't need a bond for the whole project because the town is not in the business of finishing a building.
right,
But they have
private building.
they have to
we can
stabilize
use.
the site and, you know, provide anything needed.
Yes.
Okay, so if I have a consensus of the board, we'll refer that matter to legal counsel?
Yes.
Yep.
And Susan, you'll let, if it's Huddy or Christine, whoever,
Yeah.
I can't do it until Thursday. I think they know my schedule now.
Okay, like, you want me to call the attorney then?
Please,
Okay.
yeah, and just, that way we can just coordinate if Glenn or Robin can get any of the planning board specific materials, if Glenn will reach out to Dennis for any information, and then Phil will provide us with any data that she may need to understand to make a
I
decision.
can call Dennis too, unless you're going to.
I'll call.
You will,
Yeah.
okay.
You said he's leaving, but not.
No, he's just temporarily.
Thank
for a good, I think for
Vacation.
a while, so.
Thank you. Got it.
Okay,
Thanks,
that's all I got.
Glenn. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming
Glenn. So the next item we have under appointments, we have the police chief and Public Works, and then we have an event on the plains. Why don't we, is anyone here representing the event on the plains?
Well,
It's a big one.
some of what the chief
Oh, okay.
and Phil are here for
Oh, okay.
is related to that.
Perfect.
And they have a separate issue.
Okay.
We don't normally see all three of you at a different meeting,
Never a good sign.
right? Definitely not.
So we have our Public Works Director, Phil Coons, our Police Chief, Joel Johnson, and our Fire Chief, Graham Heller.
So this is not going after a specific event or anything like that, but it's more to seek clarification from the board overall. In 2019, we had the 325th celebration in addition to the Brewfest. And then we were approached by an outside organization that wanted to have an antique craft fair on the plains. There was a lot of concern at that time raised by my predecessor and others that we had had major events on the plains, 2 major events on the plains, and concerns about the impact of that. And as such, a hearing was held with the residents off of the plains, you know, complaints were heard and things like that. So we're now looking at having 4 major events on the plains this year with the facilities use permits in front of you. I can speak for myself personally that these events are a large drain on manpower. And they're not things that were factored into my overtime budget or anything like that. And I think these gentlemen are kind of in the same boat. And the other factor for me is the impact on the plains. You know, we had to put a lot of work in because of the drought last year to make the plains look like they do right now. Because it is, you know, when you have vehicles parking on there and, you know, thousands of people walking back and forth on the grass, that does have an impact. So, with regards to this particular event that's before you, I've heard that the numbers have been changed and it's lower, and initially it was, you know, 1,000 or so. And some of the, you know, kind of questions out there have been answered, but, you know, the town did purchase the fairgrounds for a reason, is because there was impact on the plains that people didn't want to see. And this is kind of above our pay grade, but it's affecting all of our departments. So we're just looking for some guidance on how this is supposed to be handled.
What are the 4 events, Phil? I know there's the Brewfest, Kingston Days, and the museum celebration the first weekend in August. What's
And
the
then I
4th?
believe there's one in October as well, a flea market or a craft event.
Okay.
Do you have the, permit applications? Did I get them back?
I just have the only
They
permit
were out
application
for-
I saw in here was the Ragnar.
Right, I don't think I got them back, they were circulating, and they
Marathon
didn't
race.
get back to us, so.
I mean, I guess, so, as far as what it takes for, you know, I think we got a couple separate issues here. One is obviously the impact on the planes, one is obviously staffing, manpower, and the town's responsibility. I think if it's a town-sponsored event, obviously the town is going to be encumbering, you know, taking on a lot of that overtime responsibility, road closures, emergency services. But I think if it's a private entity that is not a town-sponsored event, if we allow it, I think any costs should be borne by the event for any required manpower, staffing, whether it be police details or, you know, I don't know, Chief, do you usually have like a requirement of having, like, if there's a large event going on, do you have like an ambulance on standby specifically for that event, or what additional things are you looking?
So like for the school, they're required, like, we have 2 EMTs for graduation for the amount of people. Same thing for Kingston Days. If there's an influx of people in town, then I put on, like for Kingston Days, I put on an extra ambulance, 2 guys, because my current staffing can't handle, you know, 3,000 people on the planes with heat exhaustion and all that good stuff, plus the normal emergencies from town of Kingston.
So, so what I guess is, if we're having a craft fair in August, and I don't know how many crafters there would be, or what it would be on the plane yet, we haven't seen the information, but if it's a craft fair, it's one day, it's, you know, people coming and going, but not anything like Kingston Days, et cetera, that you would require to have somebody there? And I guess-
Not typically, they would be.
No, okay, that's.
It would be staged, you know, if the influx of people is requiring of another ambulance, then they would be staged either on the planes or at the station.
Yeah, but I wouldn't anticipate a craft fair to necessitate having an.
Not typically, but if, and, you know, I haven't talked to the committee, but, if Heritage Days, I believe that's what it's being called, if that's similar to Kingston Days with multiple events and people, again, not just taking a walk through the planes and then leaving, but if, you know, you're talking about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, whatever the number is, hanging out on the planes for an extended period of time, then yeah, that's gonna be taxing through probably myself and the place.
So then I guess the same question for Joe. I'm talking about this craft fair, or whatever it might be, that doesn't seem to be overly burdensome or big or anything else. But we've not had police officers before. Are you gonna require them to have a police officer?
Absolutely.
And that
I'd like to somehow get a number of how many people that, you know, plan on being there. So far, I've been told 1,000, and this is the first time we're doing it, so it's gonna be a little test run. If it is gonna be 1,000 people, I can handle the parking. I will have 1 officer for detail for the beer tent, and I'll have a roaming police officer. Dan Doyle's gonna assist with traffic, if we can get the state park for parking. And they're gonna, Leslie had already put an application in to get that grassy area where the ball field is, where cars can pull in and park. And that'll take a lot of pressure off the roads. And Dan Doyle will handle that, people coming in and out of that. So I won't need an officer stationed in one spot, but I will need an officer patrolling around the area.
This is for the beer
Make sure
fest?
people are off the roads.
You want the beer fest?
It's a beer fest and the craft fair.
I guess we might need an explanation of exactly what this is.
I was making reference to the craft fair, because that's, I don't think the craft fair is the same day as the beer fest, is it?
No.
Are you talking about the Heritage Days, the craft fair, or the Heritage Days?
The one that's in August. I mean, I haven't
That's
seen
the
any
Heritage
paperwork, so all I
Days,
know is
right.
the craft fair in August.
Right.
Right? And
Can we just have Leslie come up and explain
That
what is
probably
going
would
to
be
take
good.
place?
Come on down.
I might be excited too.
Thanks for having me here and having us here. A lot of our museum volunteers are here. Yeah, so Heritage Day is August 5th. We plan to have our 52nd, 53rd flea market. We've been having a flea market that weekend since the early 70s. We'll also try to bring back the car show. We had a lot of people asking us if they could come back with their cars. And we're having what's called a business showcase, which we hope will inviting a lot of small businesses to be able to market and promote their products and services on that. One of the things we're going to try to have is a beer wine garden, depending upon whether I get approvals and I can work that all out. That's one of the aspects of the program that we want. So it's not a beer fest, it's a simple set-aside area to serve beer and wine, and I'm working out the details with the Liquor Commission and with some people in the community that are helping trying to organize that for me. It's a one-day event. The public is with us from 9 to 3, that's when it's open. But as you know, if you know any flea marketers, they'll probably be there very early, setting up.
It's a lot different than a craft fair, Leslie.
Right, that's what Heritage Day is. I didn't represent Heritage Day as a craft fair. In October, we have this 2-day event on the 14th and 15th, the weekend following Columbus Day, which we hope to have a juried craft fair, a professionally run cornhole tournament, and also have a wine and beer garden with that event. It's a 2-day event. The Sunday event is the craft fair and family-oriented kid activities on the Sunday afternoon.
And who benefits from these activities?
They're being run by the Friends of the Kingston Historical Museum Association. It's the Friends group that raises money to support our Kingston Historical Museum. So the benefit is the town's museum.
And what about Kingston Days, or did you just move them to the side? It feels like that.
I didn't move anybody to the side, Ellie. They chose to move their day. I lobbied extremely hard to keep the August weekend going. That is our founding weekend. We are the museum. We've had a fundraising event, like many people, unfortunately. We've had our fundraising event superseded by Kingston Days, but when they decided not to have the event, that was our principal fundraising event of the year. We make about $1,000 on the flea market every year. We share our profits with Kingston Days, as modest as they are, and we've done that for 25 plus years. So it was not our decision to move, but as soon as rumors were that they were going to do that, we started getting calls and inquiries. A lot of people, small businesses, small families who've been coming to our fair. Some of Ruth's people she's known for 30 plus years since she's been involved. That's a pretty loyal support group there, and we said we would continue to do it. But I got to pay for porta potties and police officers and all of that, so we said what else could we do, and the idea of the showcase came up to kind of promote local small businesses and see if we can give them an opportunity to come down and meet new customers.
So would that be something where they would have a space and they'd set up maybe a pop-up canopy or something?
Yep, it's $25 a table. Not a big thing, but we're just trying to cover our costs and keep the weekend going. And maybe next year Kingston Days will come back, maybe they won't, but we'll have more time to maybe make more of it about the celebration of the founding of the town. But this is what we're trying to pull together for this year.
Are there any entry fees for anybody?
There's no admission fees. No, we're just asking for the car people to come, that want to come to for a $5 donation. There's no admission to the car show this year. It's open invitation. There's no car club running it.
If you had the beer and wine garden thing, are they going to charge?
We haven't worked that out yet. Some do have a cover charge, like $5 to get in, and then you pay for your beverage. We're not having pre-ticket sales in advance of the event. Nope, I'm learning all about how these things work. I'm not a drinker myself, so, but we're just trying to figure out, maybe we won't pull that off. I have no idea. We've estimated maybe 1,000 people throughout the day. That includes us, our vendors, and the public. I would say less than 500. It's the seat. It's the seat, or this table. It's the table. Maybe 500 at any given time on the planes. We're trying our best to promote it. I've taken social media, Facebook promotion classes to kind of try to become a Facebook person. I'm not, but just trying to figure out how to have a good day.
To try to put it in perspective, do we have a sense for the number of people who attend Kingston Days? Granted, that's a 3-day event or 2.5-day event, but.
So the Vintage Bazaar, I pulled the minutes from that. They were estimating 2,000 people. They had a staff of 16 to assist with parking. I know there was at least 4 detail officers. They did not have alcohol, and they had a cleanup crew that came in Sunday evening to remove all trash. So that was kind of the standard for that event.
Yeah, we're not a professionally run crafting business where we don't have a legion of crafters that follow, you know, are enrolled in those professional organizations. I've gone to those to meet all those people, to try to get them to come to Kingston Days. I spent many hours last year trying to get, and I think I brought in maybe 20 or 30 new ones to support and get more revenue into Kingston Days.
I bring that up because it was a professionally run event. There wasn't a speck of trash on the planes after the fact, and it did not impact town services other than not paying a detail bill. But no, I mean, I'm not saying that's what you should do, Leslie. I'm just saying that was a successful event, and that's what they had it staffed with.
Okay. Okay, it's just a different scale. It's just a different scale.
So,
people,
sorry.
I was gonna say, people follow those crafters and they follow those professional people. I mean, we're hoping for the local people, the woman who works in her craft room and comes down and wants to sell her thing once a year. Those are the types of people I met over in Exeter at their Christmas fair. And that's the type of people that we're trying to get out from their homes and give them an opportunity to sell their goods.
So your first event is the car show, the beer garden, and some vendors.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I misspoke when I said the crafts fair. If there's 2,000 people going to Kingston Days, that's a lot of events going on. She's thinking 1,000.
You know what?
1,000, maybe less. Could be less.
Yeah, but yeah.
It'd be wonderful if we
I
had
think,
1,000.
like me personally, my department can handle the traffic. Like I said in the beginning, did you get the?
I haven't heard. They have some shortages. They've just got a new state park manager assigned down there, so they had to wait. You know, they had to communicate with her what's going on in the park, and so I haven't heard.
Right. This morning I drove with Dan Doyle. We did a little recon, checking out the breakdown lanes. The ones around the plane are pretty wide, that you can park a car on. The ones on the
house side,
not so much.
Mm-hmm.
When you put your flyer out, if you could just indicate what they need to do for parking. Do not cross over the white line. Okay. On the planes, on the other side of the planes. That's a terrible thing. Driving me crazy. You get the state park, that's going to take a lot of the vehicles off the road. And a lot of people are going to want to park on the road, but if there's an overflow, they have a place to go, and that should not be any issues. Yeah, the flyers, we checked it out. The detail officer, I can get by with one detail officer. We'll experiment a little bit with this first go around. If everything goes smooth, then in October, maybe that may go, not gonna make any commitments until we see what happens here. Okay?
If they have alcohol, they need an additional detail officer, correct?
Correct. They're gonna have a detail officer at the alcohol tent. Now, the fire department, when they have their beer fest, they have 2 offices. So I'm still tossing around whether I need 2 or 1.
We're not pre-selling any tickets. If there's 2 ways to go with this, is to hire a catering company who serves, or we serve. And we have 1 or 2 beers, 1 or 2 glasses of wine or whatever, and we're the servers. We're not selling, we're not saying this is a beer fest where you're gonna have 15, like the beautiful thing the fire department does.
I'll tell you what, the school will go with one officer with a tent.
Okay.
If it gets out of hand, I'm gonna immediately call another officer.
Sure.
Fair? Okay.
Again, we're not going into the evening hours.
Correct.
You know, it's a 10
getting late.
to 2 car show. Everything wraps up around 3. So,
It sounds doable, but I mean, I just gotta let you know, same with the traffic, if it gets out of control, I'm gonna call out another guy.
okay,
Okay, I don't want to, 'cause I know you're trying to raise money.
yeah,
So I'll work with you on that.
thanks.
You also mentioned parking in the, right by, Rick's Cafe.
Yes, it's private property, yeah, that's private
It's gonna have
property.
to be mowed, because you can't park up Cadillac converters on the tall grass.
Okay,
See what happens when that, when you do that.
Keep on it.
It does, it does. Those are my concerns, just traffic and barricades going across the crossroads. Too many pedestrians walking across, I want them shut down, both sides. Right?
so on the plan, we had, you had originally asked for Steer, Merrick, and Bunker to all be closed off
Yeah.
for, the August event, I think.
Right, and I don't want anybody parking in the Kingston parking only area.
Okay,
People that wanna come in and go down to the state park. I think the parking will be taken care of at that point. As long as you get the barricades up on Bunker, Steer, and, Walter.
Merrick.
Yeah. Shouldn't be an issue.
Just look at
So
that.
would the board appreciate that? I don't want to speak out of turn with my brother's next thing, but, so like when the school does an event, like they have a dance recital, there's a step process of how many people we require for an EMT for detail. With more events coming to the plains of the potential, or even if we work on doing the fairground, sooner or later, we're gonna need the same sort of plan that if, you know, an event with the yoga people that want to use the plane, well, they don't really need a detail officer or an extra ambulance, because it's 60. But if it's, you know, 500 to 1,000 person event, then, you know, we may need to bring in extra resources for, you know, DPW, police and fire. So I think it would probably be beneficial if we worked on something like that, the 3 of us, to maybe present to the board. Anytime there's alcohol involved, I like to have an ambulance on standby, especially if it's in August, because it's gonna be 90 degrees that day probably, if we go by the last 10 years. I know it's a fundraiser, I can see if I can get volunteers. Probably not gonna be very successful with volunteers. I wouldn't charge a detail rate, or just charge overtime, to save some money. But that's my concern, just because I only have 2 guys on the weekends. So, you know, if there's another call with 8,000 residents or mutual aid, it's not really fair to focus, you know, resources coming in just for that event from out of town.
Yeah.
So like for the beer fest, we have 2 detail officers for the beer fest. We have my duty crew that's on, and then I have 15 to 20 volunteers, obviously firefighter EMTs that are helping with the event that can respond to a call.
Right,
So.
right.
Yeah, and so I guess for the events themselves, I don't have any issue with events happening as long as, you know, any recommendations that, as any recommendations that are within reason and appropriate for the town, as long as they're met and those costs are borne by the people trying to accommodate. So that's why I think it's important for obviously all 3 of you to have complete input on what you expect or need or change it. Making suggestions of anything that may need to be changed, like the issue that came up with parking, you know, being able to apply to park in the state park, as opposed to.
Yes, when we had our pre-meeting, Joel said he would like me to try to get that, and so I did. I'm trying to get it.
Now, and so with the single day event, would the intent that the vendors set up the morning of, or are they gonna be
I have a few early morning flea marketers who'd like to come in the night before. They've got bigger trailer type things. I've got a few crafters. Basically, I'm telling them, this is not Kingston Days weekend. We do not have night events Friday and lots of people coming around and watching things. So, if you want to set up the night before, I'm going to have them sign a waiver that they know there's no security, there's no protection for their stuff if they bring it.
Because I think maybe some of the concerns that, you know, the more impactful things as far as the planes themselves physically, that's going to be those multi-day events, or people, you know, trailers and cars set up for, you know, 20 hours before the event even starts, and that's what,
you know, we've always, Kingston Days has never let anyone sign up, begin setting up before 3 o'clock in the evening. They have their night events on Fridays, but a lot of the vendors come in to to set up for their craft booths and things like that. And they start around 3 o'clock, so.
And
On
so.
Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon, yes, yeah.
And so, and you know, listen, I get it. There's some history there where people feel like events are competing with each other, and you know, I guess that's really not for us to get into. I mean, I enjoy the planes being there to be used, but we also we want to make sure we preserve them so they don't get to a point where it's cost prohibitive, where we allow these events and then we're spending tens of thousands of dollars to to rebuild it or do any work. So, Phil, I guess with that public hearing, the last go, you know, what were some of the major points that came out from the residents around there, and you know, some of the concerns that the board ended up either voting on or taking a position on at that point?
Well, I think most people like the fact we're getting $2,500 for the event.
Yeah.
But as I recall, it was mid to late October, so the grass was kind of bounced back at that point. You know, there were different views from different residents. Overall, I think it was positive. I mean, most people were okay with it, but I think most people liked the fact that they were, because it's more of an impact on people. Like when we did one-way traffic last year, half of the phones were missing on Saturday morning because all the residents around things took in block their yards. So, I mean, it is an impact to them, and I mean, some people don't care, that's why they move to the plane. Some people just want to look at planes and don't want to look at anyone on the plane, so.
It is a public resource, it's owned by the town, and I think that as long as we can use it in a reasonable fashion, we should use it.
I don't disagree with that, but I also, these are high impact events, and the compaction in the soil and things like that, there's one end of the plains that will have to be shut down next year.
We're gonna hear about it. If there's a problem, we're gonna hear about it. We don't know until we give it a try.
And I'm down for whatever, but if it's tens of thousands of dollars to repair the plane, I just want not to be a surprise to anyone that might be coming. Mr. Doyle?
Well,
no,
we don't have the school budget either.
There was one at one point in time when it was, people wanted organic methods to take care of the plains, and it was not something that could be adhered to, basically because of the sandy nature of the plains. It dries out, it's not an irrigated field, it's not a managed field, and you know, I understand what Mr. Doyle is talking about.
I'm just talking about for usage. Is there something right in saying between particular events taking place on the plains, there should be a 4-week gap between for rest? We do that with our ball fields at the school. We have rest periods for that turf between events, so we can come back and come back strong.
Yeah,
Is there a plan like that for the plains? I mean,
we haven't had that many.
August is dry and watering is an issue, but unless you really have a plan in place, it can be very subjective to anybody that comes in and asks for some plans.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you the plan would not be to have an event on it every month in the summer.
Yeah. So maybe if maybe there's something, because I think the vehicles and trailers are probably, you know, the big impact, you know, obviously with the ground pressure. And have we ever had any provisions where, I don't know if we've ever had an event where severe rainstorm, like just prior to the event, and then caused
4 years ago, I believe,
that caused them, you know, would have, you know, essentially caused much more damage because of soft soil at the time of the event.
The biggest issue has been heat and how dry it gets, and you get the wear and tear from the vehicles on the plains. But we haven't had 4 events in 3 months. We have not had that in my memory.
Leslie, I have a question. Are you taking the whole plains for Heritage Days?
The Heritage, you know, Lori, where our flea market is traditionally under the trees right across from Rick's Cafe, that's where our activity ends, and where, you know, people would come onto the plains from the designated parking areas there. And we're using car overflow for the car show would be towards the bandstand if necessary.
So the answer is yes, more of it will be used because you have more activities on the field.
Yeah, but Kingston, like I said, Kingston Days is using past where we are in the flea market, because they've got a motorcycle show, and the car show used to be down there. And they have the entire area around the bandstand completely occupied by the carnival.
But you're still gonna have Kingston days in September.
Oh, I understand, I'm just saying, it's
Right,
not, it's not the.
But my point is, you got 4 activities,
Yes,
and there's
yes.
fuller use of the planes than you've ever had.
And so, yeah, so the 2-day event, that is that craft fair plan to be where, currently planned to be where you traditionally have it down under the, you know, the more treed area?
No, actually, we're gonna be centered in the main area and using less of the planes for activities. Only about half or 2/3 of the flea market area would be used.
Would it be helpful, Phil, if, you know, if we do go down this road to allowing this many events to see how this year goes, would it be helpful that there be a provision that due to the, you know, after Kingston days, if we recognize that one section of the plains has been overused and damaged and needs a break, that we have the authority to dictate that it gets shifted down to a different area of the plains?
I can tell you the area right in front of the state park is toast.
Okay.
It's harder than asphalt because it's so compacted and dead. We're doing what we can with it, but it needs to just be shut down for a year at least.
That's where the Kingston parking area is?
Further up from there. But
We won't be going down that far.
Not for activities, no.
Last year with the drought and the carnival people deciding to show up early and parking their stuff on there, it was a lot of effort this fall and this spring to bring that back. And again, that has a cost associated with it. There's a manpower factor that wasn't really factored in. And contrary to popular belief, we're not just sitting around waiting for problems to pop up. So, again, it's the board's decision. I know as the person who's charged with the plains looking nice and green and pretty, I have my feelings on it, but that's not my decision. I think everybody had their kind of questions on this, and it's not with regards to the merit of the event or anything like that. It's just we need guidance from the board on knowing which way you want us to go. So, I also, just so it's not a surprise to anyone when the budget goes up for lawn care next year, this is potentially why.
What's the sense of having beautiful plains in the center of town if we can't use it as a community to come together?
No, and I agree. I love the fact that we have to use, but we have a finite budget that the town has approved that we have to live within those means. So if substantial damage were to occur and then we don't have the funds or the personnel to repair it, it could fall into a state of disrepair where no events could be held for a period of time, and we may lose it for everything. So we're kind of charged with that balance. And yes, like I said, I love that it's a beautiful resource. I love that people can take dogs there, kids there, play sports there. I think it's very unique to have that as an asset to hold large scale events, but we can't just say, everyone do everything you want.
No, we get it. I just
There
have to
was a
say.
reason that the fairgrounds were purchased, is because it started beating the heck out of the plains, and they wanted a place to have larger events.
There was a lot of damage to the homes surrounding the
It was
plains.
nothing
There
to do
was a
with the
lot of destruction, I should say. And that's, the plains were purchased specifically to hold events there and not damage the center of town. And yes, Ruth is correct. It's nice to have everything right there in the center of town. Totally agree with you. But I'm concerned that there are 4 events.
I kind of say, this is just as a memory as a kid, and I gotta love the fire department for the rest of my life, because they used to make an enormous mud pile out there, big mud puddle for us. That we slid and did tug of wars, and it was all dirt, and it was just, we did almost anything goes games out there, and it was just a heck of a lot of fun. And I never worried about the grass, and I don't think anybody else did either. They wanted us to have a great summer.
Yeah, times are different back then too.
Right. But
we came to you, Leslie and I did on March 6th.
Yeah.
We came
just
to
let
the
you know.
selectmen to let you know what our events were, what we were planning. So all of a sudden to have this thrown at us now, it's like, wait a minute, this was back in March. We talked to you guys and said how we were planning to use the planes.
Like I said, I might suggest that the town takes on further management for this reason. During that same time period, you also have a high school that's doing a major track meet on the plains.
Yeah.
So that's going to be used in September also. There's a lot of events coming. So, just be careful if we do allow and don't allow using the plains because of the turf issues, because you're going to get yourself in a jam. So I really suggest that you have.
Correct, and that'd be nice, because we need to, to say now we we've offered, oh, this organization gets 2 events, and now somebody else comes in and says, well, now we're denying you because everything's booked up and occupied. So if we're going to deny, it should be based off of something that.
Sure, based on rainfall, precipitation, time period, or rest, or whatever for the lawn, or whatever.
Who established that turf management plan for the SAU?
You're looking at it, buddy.
Oh.
I mean, they never had one before you came on board?
I've done a lot of changes.
What is the fairgrounds use policy? Like, what determines if something is on the plains or if it's in the fairgrounds?
Nothing is in the fairgrounds, but it's not really usable.
Why isn't it?
Not a real nice place anymore.
It wasn't developed as, it's an old gravel pit. It was purchased with the intent of potentially using it, but it never got developed into usable space.
Into a real venue.
Right, into a venue.
Yeah. I mean, they used it as a sand pit, and then years ago, Phil's predecessor was gonna have the Army Corps of Engineers come in, and for some reason it didn't work out, but.
We had some concerts back there back in the day.
Yep.
Could have seen Twisted Sister or Ozzy Osbourne, Huey Lewis in the News, and
Willie Nelson and Ringo Starr, those are my 2 favorites.
Yeah.
So I think before I'm ready to approve this permit, I would just need everything in writing of what the requirements are and that they're agreeing to on behalf of our 3 department heads.
Yes,
that are
if
requiring
you guys could send me an email outlining what you want to see in the application, I'm happy to do what you've just represented here. I'm a little not sure about what you need, Graham, but in terms of coverage, maybe we can share a little bit more about that. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Sure. And my apologies, from what I understood, the Heritage Day is to be back in March. It seems like, and it might be my own ignorance, that it's expanded, and you've added some events.
No.
So that's why I guess it feels like I'm coming in at the 11th hour, but I apologize.
Okay.
So, I mean, you're going to get the requirements down, and Leslie, you're going to review them.
Yes.
For the group.
Yes, we have a committee meeting and a friends meeting tomorrow night, so we'll be able to look over everything.
As your liaison, I will be there.
You will be there.
I will be there.
Yes.
So, and I understand the concerns of the department heads who are here.
Oh, we do too.
And I know you do. And as Chris said, there's a balance here. And I firmly believe that it's a resource to be used. We don't want to abuse it, and we don't want to damage it, and I don't think you do either. And, if we can, maybe Dan's suggestion of a turf management plan is something that we need to have as something to use and to be able to look to help guide us in the use. And, maybe this year, it's a learning experience for all of us, and we're gonna have to see how it goes.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
If it ends up, we have some real problems, then we're gonna have to reassess.
Great. Mm-hmm.
And, and I'm sure that you
Hope you'll find us a trustworthy organization that will be able to manage our responsibilities well. That's our goal, and to have everybody have a good time.
If you're the ringleader, I'm sure it'll be just fine.
We're doing our best to get out in front of everything, trying our best to pre-plan and make sure. I was going to say, before we leave, I just would like to remind everybody that the museum, over at the museum at Nichols on Saturday at 1 o'clock, we have our 125th anniversary celebration, and there's new faces on the board since we came in March to issue our first invitation to you. So I hope you will join us. And I first want to apologize that I have not approached the board previously about having someone from the board speak. We are going to have the voice of a Board of Selectmen member at our event, but it will be the voice of George Bakey, who was the chairman of the Board of Selectmen in 1898, who accepted the building on behalf of the town. So I'd love to have someone come and speak. Glenn has joined us as liaison. I don't know, Chris, if you do these things, but...
I would love to at least attend, but I am tapped out with lacrosse tournaments, dance recitals, and other events this weekend.
I gotcha.
Not participating, but observing.
Oh, I want to watch you do that.
As this board's liaison to the museum committee, and also to Heritage Commission,
Heritage is a huge
and
part of it.
HDC.
Yes,
I'd be happy to represent the select board if that is the board's wish.
thank you.
I am fine with that.
Absolutely, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming, sharing your thoughts with us tonight.
All right, thank you, and I will be there.
Yes.
So with that, we will open it up to our first public comment. Let's have Mr. Doyle go first.
I know.
You go in every public comment.
All right, good evening, once again, Dan Doyle with 86 Main Street. Regarding PFAS. What is the status for the public record as far as what is the town doing, and what's the timeline?
Are we gonna take that up under old business?
We are. That's gonna be coming up under old business.
Okay, I have to leave in 15 minutes to go get a daughter from a dance, so I may not be here for that, but I'll wait.
So I guess there is good news. We were earmarked in the pre-application for funds to move forward with the formal application for getting funding to apply for the point of entry systems for the town. And I'm sure we're going to be kind of taking some information on which way the board's going to be going in a direction with that, as well as the Sanborn Head report and their additional recommendations and tracking the flow. So,
And I'm sorry, that was for a filtration system or for bringing
point
in?
of entry system.
Yeah, okay.
POET, point of entry treatment.
Yep.
In each of the 20 residences that are not yet fitted with treatment systems.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
And there's also an opportunity where we may be able to get reimbursement for the ones that have already.
You're gonna have to tell this doctor.
Does that go out for public bid?
Hey folks, our acoustics are terrible, so if you're gonna have conversations, you gotta do it outside.
What was the question, Dan?
Does that go out to public bid as far as who's bidding on putting in the filtration system?
Yes, asking about going out to bid, because it will be a project over $25,000,
Right.
so we'll have to go out to bid.
And do you have a time? I know it's old business that you're gonna cover, but do you have a timeline for this?
We have to decide with the formal grant application, which we're gonna discuss, and then we have to have legal drop the contracts. No,
So we don't have a timeline specific, but it's actively in progress, let's put it that way.
It's a longer process than we would like, because the contract will be with the Department of Environmental Services.
Right.
And the contract has to go to GNC, Governor and Council. They don't meet very frequently in the summertime, and I was told by DES that it's probably not going to get to GNC until August, even if we get the application in today. And at that point, we can start going out to bid, so forth and so on. If it happens fast, hopefully by the end of October, we should be able to be done, if it goes fast.
Yep, fair enough. I know how DES operates. I've been talking with Amy quite a bit over there, so I know the program.
She's our contact.
Yes.
We are taking the steps
She's my
as
contact.
quickly as we can.
So, all right, thank you.
Yep. Public comment.
Thank you, I needed the exercise. We've been getting a lot of questions with regards to the mailer that went out with the tax bill. So I wanted to read a brief statement, and if the board had any questions or anyone present, they all left. Many of you will be seeing a flyer in your tax bills regarding recycling. While this was meant to inform people on the current recycling contract and market conditions, we were limited to one page to explain a 5-year contract with a multi-billion-dollar company. This letter is meant to answer some of the follow-on questions that have come up since the flyer was sent out. Why is glass not recyclable? Glass is taken as recyclable by Waste Management. However, it is not recycled into more glass, but repurposed. It is typically crushed and used as road fill material on the access roads around the landfill facility. Glass breaks in the single-stream recycling bins and trucks and can contaminate more valuable products, so it is not helping our overall recyclable value. Glass is extremely heavy, and the end use provides no monetary benefit to the contractor, so we are charged approximately $75 a ton to recycle glass. Because of this, we are looking at alternatives such as having a glass dumpster that will be taken out of the sorting process and go directly into the grind and spread process, saving the town money. The big one. Why can't shredded paper be put in recycling? Shredded paper cannot be recycled efficiently in a single stream system. When you dump your shredded paper into your bin, it goes everywhere. This is impossible to separate from bottles, cardboards, etc. that provide a value to the town and can result in a contamination charge. To be clear, nothing smaller than 2 inches can be recycled with the processing equipment. If something's smaller than 2 inches, it needs to go in the trash. It cannot be recycled. Shredded paper can make an excellent bedding material for pets and livestock and can be composted, but care should be used to avoid plastics and glossy paper. Why not use another company? We requested bids from 6 solid waste and recycling companies. Of those, 4 declined to quote, specifically citing a lack of manpower or available equipment to service the town, with anticipated delivery time frames of 1.5 years on any equipment that was ordered. Of the 2 quotes we received, Waste Management was 21% cheaper than the other bidder. This was still an 18% increase over the previous contract, and that did not include fluctuations in commodity prices that our recycling contract is tied to. The Solid Waste and Recycling Committee was specifically set up to create new and innovative solutions to deal with this issue. One of the chief goals is to be in a much better position in 4+ years when the contract goes out to bid again. Why are we even recycling anymore? Based on recent commodity prices, it is more expensive to recycle than throw things in the landfill. It's the truth of the matter. I know people don't want to hear that, but just because you want something to be a certain way, it doesn't make it the reality.
I know it may be shocking, but I did chime in with that on social media.
I know, I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't dance in the sewer, so I figured I'd read it either. This is the reality of the current market. It's no different than our budget going up 8% because of inflation or having to pay our employees more money. The town is not in some special bubble where it's excluded from the realities of the world. So when people hear about these things, this is where the rubber meets the road. The town is a small fry in this whole process. We do not have bargaining power or contract power. We take what we get. Like everything tied to economics, it will constantly change and has been trending to be a net positive in recent months. And while tempting it may be, throwing everything away is not the solution. There are 2 landfills in New Hampshire, and the closest one in Rochester is set to close by 2034. If everyone started throwing things out, it would be at capacity much sooner, and prices to dump would be even higher. The town is contractually committed to the current arrangement for at least 4 more years, and a decision will have to be made as to whether it makes sense to still recycle at this time. As shown in the handouts, if we recycle correctly, we can receive credit for products of value which bring down the total cost of disposal. The information I received previously was different. What should I follow? The information in the flyer is the most up-to-date. There is a lot of conflicting information between the contract, past practices, and standardized handouts from Waste Management that did not comply with the contract. While it should not be this complicated, it is. I tell people about the story when we made a demonstration for voting to show people what should go in the trash and what should go in recycling. We have a group of 7 people who were into recycling, and we all just were wrong on almost every piece of paper or thing that we went to throw in there. It's very complicated. It has nothing to do with the town of Kingston or the people on the recycling committee or even Waste Management. They are doing what they have to do to make money at this, and we are paying for it accordingly. The Solid Waste and Recycling Committee has been tasked with informing the public of what can be disposed of where. This is not an easy thing to answer, and we are working constantly to provide the correct, most efficient, and lowest cost solution to the people of Kingston. We ask for patience as this group of volunteers works through these issues. I should highlight that again. This is a group of volunteers. I took over this task, but it was not previously managed by anyone. It was just kind of what happened when Waste Management did what they did and we went along with it. So we're trying to be proactive and find solutions, but we don't have a team of 6 people working on this around the clock. We have a group of volunteers doing the best they can. I would ask that anyone who's interested or anyone who has questions can email talkingtrash@kingstonnh.org or contact the Kingston Public Works Department at 642-8042 with any questions they may have. They're also welcome to attend any Solid Waste and Recycling Committee meetings with any questions. The next one will be next Wednesday at 7 o'clock at the Public Works Department meeting room. And just a side note on this, we are working on getting a collection point set up in town. The ideal location of that would be the state shed. We're working with the DES to kind of figure out how we can make that happen. But unfortunately, this is not something we can just stand up overnight. And I'm resisting the temptation to just go out and throw a dumpster somewhere because people still show up to the town hall to vote. When's the last time we voted here? I want to say it was at least 17 years ago. So we need to find one place that we're going to put this, and we can expand it out from there where we can take items that get us money and we get a straight value out of those as opposed to the blended value that we're currently paying when it goes into the single stream recycling. We're working on solutions, but there really are no easy solutions in this problem. This is not something that's going to go away. The town is looking at, by the end of this 5-year contract, $900,000, $1 million a year on solid waste and recycling. As a taxpayer, I don't find that very palatable. So I just want to put this out there, and I will give a copy of this for Susan to read into the minutes and preferably post on the website.
Yeah, I mean, I had some conversations with some folks that were asking, and I said, listen, one of the things I always hear is how glad people are that we have trash pickup, but there's a cost. There's a cost for that. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that like that they don't have to go to a transfer station or a dump, or heck, some people I always used to know had to buy a separate pickup truck just to go to the dump because they'd have so much stuff and they didn't want it smelling up their car. So we're very fortunate to have it, but there's a cost. And yeah, there was a lot of unhappy folks, but that's Facebook.
So what are you gonna do with this letter, Phil?
I was going to post it to the website and post it on the selectmen's page as well.
Could you send it into Carriagetown News and put it on your Facebook page?
Yep.
Yeah,
I wanted to
I've got
read it
a
here
number of
first.
calls, yeah.
Yep.
The calls are coming in, and I think the glass was the biggest one.
Yep.
Because most people didn't realize it costs us money to recycle glass.
And people can still throw glass into the recycling bin, but people need to be aware of the situation and what it's costing. And that letter was not intended to belittle anyone or yell at anyone. It's just making, everybody's a shareholder in this entity, and they need to know what's going on.
And it's those swings in the commodities market. I remember a time back in the restaurant industry where you used to have to pay to get rid of waste vegetable oil. And then the commodities market took such a huge change that the collection companies were paying restaurants for it because they were able to sell it on the commodities market they got to a point they had to put locks on the dumpsters because everyone was running their VW diesels on it.
Right.
The French fry boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always knew when you were behind someone doing that.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I ask a kind of related question. Adam was asking me today because he's doing the town's Facebook page. And he doesn't have any guidance of what we want him to put on there. So he wants to know if he should have a point of contact, like something like that should go on, but he doesn't want to do things of his own volition. He wants someone to tell him.
Correct, and most of them. Sure.
I never liked it. So it used to be that Richard would just be the point of contact I'd have for what to put on the Facebook page, what to put on the little scroll bar we have on the cable channel, what to put on the bulletin board. With him gone, I don't have that point of contact anymore, so I didn't know if one of you should be the point of contact, if we just wanted everything to go through Susan.
I think it should really be Susan, and if Susan has a question about content, she could reach out to either myself or, if I'm not available, and if we feel, hey, what the board needs to make a full decision on that, then it comes before the board. The most important thing is we just need to ensure that we have a social media policy regarding operating our own social media page, because if you do not craft it correctly and people can put horrible things on it, and you do not have the right to restrict their First Amendment ability on it unless you have certain provisions in place.
Well,
I know you.
Melissa Bannon has an excellent one that she uses for the library and has to be adopted.
And I think I forwarded her the one that we did at the sheriff's office because it allowed a terms of use agreement that was attached on the front page as well that gives you some ability to restrict inappropriate content.
My only comment on this, and I defer, anything that I post on that page, no comments allowed, so it's just flat across the board, nobody gets to comment on it.
That's probably easier.
Yeah.
I agree.
That way nobody can say, oh, you're restricting me, but not, it's like, everybody's equally
nobody gets to talk. This is for you to talk to them, not the other way around.
So I think, Susan, you're here, this is your full-time gig, I think it's better to have somebody constantly accessible, and if you need to reach out to whoever the chairman at the time is.
Sorry to throw that, sorry to get you more work done, Susan.
Okay, it makes sense, but if there's any question, I'll just wait till I talk to them.
Thank you.
Okay. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Any other public comment, number one? All right, committee liaison reports.
Joe, I didn't, we have another purchase order for Joe. Did you want to speak to the board on that, Joe?
I didn't see it. I didn't see it in the packet. Oh, I mean, I got the email.
I gave you a quick summary of what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we do change back to block for safety reasons. We used to have blocks years ago. We had probably 20 years. They're a fantastic gun. I can't say enough good about them. The only reason we went to the SIG was for the optics. Glock is now offering those optics. So this is a perfect time to get out of it.
By optics, he means red dot sights that are on top of it, which
I'm sorry.
makes it easier for shooters.
I mean, your memo was very thorough.
Yeah, it was great.
It certainly gave us the information, that we needed when we got here
And
today.
that's the purchase order.
And that's the purchase order related to it.
Right, so I'd like to, if I can get that signed tonight, I'd like to go get it rolling, because it's gonna take 120 days, I think, to get this.
Right.
Okay.
And you said there was no cost because you're taking it out of
I'm
your.
gonna take it out of the emergency detail account.
Yep.
Now, I'm gonna have to buy holsters, there's gonna be some more money coming. And my thoughts, I have the black Chevy pickup truck that we got on forfeiture years ago. I'd like to just sell that, put it back into the asset forfeiture account, and then maybe use the money to buy the holsters, so it's still no impact. But it's getting done, it's getting done quick.
Okay.
Just check, chief, with the asset forfeiture to make, because you have in your budget already normal uniform stuff, which would include holsters, and the asset forfeiture account may consider that a supplanting asset of that, because along the lines of a grant. I know there's some provisions, a lot of times it can be used for equipment, and as long as you weren't taking money you already had budgeted to buy extra holsters that you were gonna come out of your normal budget, you're probably okay. Just double check with that.
I'll look at the clothing allowance.
Yeah.
I think, because that's part of it.
Yeah, the uniform clothing equipment.
I may be able to swing it.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna go without pants for a couple days.
We won't say.
So, is the board, we need a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the expenditure for the exchange of the guns.
Second.
Six to the Glocks.
Discussion?
Per the chief's memo and
Yes.
his explanation to go along with it.
Right.
I did get 3 bids.
Yep.
And I'm getting $449, which I was very happy to see.
Yeah.
There was quite a difference between the two that you talked about.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
One other thing, we talked about going up $5 on the detail rate. Did you guys think about that, talk about that?
You and Paula were supposed to bring information back to us.
You're right.
I sure am.
That was back on you.
That was a quick throwback.
That was.
No, it's okay. My dog's gonna be mad at me, that's all.
He doesn't get
He does too, he gets so bad when I walk out of the house.
All right, committee liaison reports. You want to start off, Ellie?
I really don't have much of anything. I did speak with Melissa to let her know that I was gonna be her new liaison, and she and I are gonna set up a couple of times a month where I meet with her at the library and any other staff members that might have questions and want information about the town, so we have a little more give and take. And that's about it for now. Until too soon.
Glenn?
Let's see, Historic District Commission is, well, you made 2 appointments to the HDC tonight, so it now has for the first time in probably 2 years, a full complement of full-time board members. They still have no alternates, but at least there is a full board of membership, so that's a good thing. There was also going to be a joint meeting with the planning board to discuss possible changes to the historic district ordinance, and also to discuss and work out some of the possible changes in process as a result of some of the legal counsel advice that we had recently with regard to who has jurisdiction over what on the full use issue. That has been postponed. It was going to be tomorrow, I believe, and it's been postponed till either later June or into July. I'm not sure the date. So that hasn't happened yet. With regard to Heritage Commission, well, as you heard today, this coming Saturday, at the museum building, the Nichols building, they will be doing a program and presenting certificates to individuals who sponsored and donated to the restoration of the stained glass windows, and that's part and parcel with the 125th anniversary of that building. So that's happening, and they have a number of projects going on this coming year, but one of the things is the installation of bronze plaques that were ordered and produced for 3 properties in town that are on the National Register of Historic Places. And I know, Phil, you're involved with the placement of at least a couple of those. One of them is at the Nichols building, and I believe that you donated a large rock as anytime.
He grows plenty of those in the field.
Yeah. But that stone will be the mounting spot for the plaque for that building. And so that was a good thing. And that's Heritage Commission. That's HDC Heritage. Recreation. I still need to do Paul Butler's review. We've been going back and forth. We had a date scheduled. It got canceled for, I can't remember the reason. We're now meeting on Wednesday to do it, so that should get wrapped up. I've also been working with Paul on, being his sounding board for some issues that he's having. Still has apparently some issues with some pickleball. But we were going to talk about that, and then all of a sudden I got a text today or late yesterday saying it got resolved. Perfect, beautiful. That's a good thing.
The basketball hoops.
The basketball hoops is another
because obviously they're of a nature where they're a heavy duty, really residential type basketball hoop, and of course, listen, if you put an adjustable hoop down there, I get it. They want to make it accessible to lots of different people, but an adjustable hoop of a residential quality. Obviously, that one lasted how many? Do we know how many hours?
5 days. I think someone said 5
3
days.
days. 3 days. 3 days on that one. Have we thought about just upgrading to something more commercial, or is it cost prohibitive?
It's still gonna break the hoop.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
There needs to be.
They're turning into a slam dunk contest.
Well, there needs to be a change in attitude about how people use town property.
Well,
good luck with that.
Or you don't put it up.
Yeah.
I agree.
I was an advocate of not putting it back up because this is the 3rd one that I'm aware of that we've replaced. Paul got a more industrial grade hoop to go on there, and that was snapped right off of the welds. It's still functional, but till when, I guess is the question. I advocated for it just being a fixed hoop, because that's really the only industrial grade hoop you're gonna find. Anything that can be
fixed hoop, solid backboard, the kind you remember as a kid that lasted 40 years.
But my impression was the Recreation Commission had been approached by multiple people who bring younger children there, and they set it down, and that's kind of where they can play with the young kids, so they wanted to keep an adjustable hoop there, so. That's why we can't have nice things.
I mean, I have probably that size basketball court at my house, and I got some used hoops that are of a commercial grade, and I can hang from the rim, and I am not a small man.
I'd say that's a ringing endorsement. I'll take they can manufacture that one.
Is the picture included?
And I was able to pick them up used, and they're still in fit. I mean, these things wants to look into that. But
the name says it all.
Yeah.
So we had adjustable for little kids, right? Can we put another one up for little kids? I don't play basketball, so.
The problem isn't that it's not little kids that are lowering it and abusing it. But I will say, these ones that I have, they're actually adjustable. You can adjust the height from 10 feet down to 7 feet, I think.
No, but if you have one for the bigger kids and then you have one for the little kids, maybe they won't be jerks and go on the little kids.
Then you almost need a whole separate court.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Which is the big issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could put them at the end and then off to one side of it, you could have just a small hoop for small children.
Well, it's the bigger issue is when they have camp.
Yeah.
You have kids of a certain age who go out and play basketball, so they'll adjust the hoop for that age or that size. So that's a lot of it too.
I mean, it's kids and it's
Well, I know that when this happened most recently, Paul reached out to me, told me what happened, and he said, just, again, he was using me as a sounding board because I'm his liaison person, and I said, well, my first reaction would be if it's happened this many times and people are abusing it, I don't think, at least for a while, I think maybe you don't put them back up.
Yep.
And maybe you let the community then realize what's going on, and maybe there's some outrage, and maybe it sort of self-corrects.
Is it possible to put any type of security camera up there? I mean, because let's face it, if it continues, if it does happen, the only way, unless you have proof that somebody did it, the only way parents are going to stop their kids from abusing that is when it comes out of their pocket, that they're responsible for replacing what their children did.
So unfortunately, that's on the very edge of the Wi-Fi for the rec center. That's kind of past.
So I would offer an option that I've used that I've a remote property. I have cellular-based game cameras that capture video and still phones.
Yeah, my wife bought me one of those 3 years ago and it's still in the box because it's just way too complicated for me. So Block 5 or someone else wants to IT that for you.
Listen, I am terrible at that stuff, and I was able to set up 3 of them on that property.
But you had a mission, right?
Yeah.
I just hide in the woods, it's easier that way.
Yeah.
A lot more bang for your buck, too. I agreed with Glenn when Paul reached out to me. I said I would leave it off until camp at least. I mean, there's enough traffic on Ludley Point Road that people, and that's a lot of the people who use that park are the people in that neighborhood. So if they realize there's a problem and there's a reason the hoop isn't there, I agree with Glenn that hopefully the neighbor can yell out their window at a kid who's getting hang time off.
Heaven forbid you hold somebody accountable doing something wrong these days.
I have no problem driving around yelling at people,
The
but I can't
parents
be
come
all
yell
the
at you
time.
for talking to their children.
It's kids being kids, but it's also destroying property.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be the town's responsibility to continue to perpetuate it, and it would be fine. It would be one thing if you put it up and it lasted a season, but I mean, this is a number of days and it's destroyed again.
3 days on that one, right?
I mean, it's not acceptable.
Yeah. All right. Figured I'd bring it up. Anything else for you? My liaison report, so it was the chief who brought the weapon issue to me, and obviously he wanted to move it forward quickly, so we already took care of that. The planning board, there's a meeting tomorrow. I've asked Lori if she could attend because my daughter's chorus concert is tomorrow. Looks like Summit Distributing has requested another continuance, so into July. Yeah, so that'll be.
What time is the meeting?
6:45.
6:45. Where, here?
Yes.
Okay, 6:45.
So she will be coming in my stead. That's all I got. Glenn? Chuck?
It's Chuck.
Sorry.
There was a resemblance, but
I really don't have too much. Fire department, the 2 guys are online, we're working with the 3rd person. He's going out again to look because he didn't really think there was enough of the leftovers to go with, because the 2 we got had all the experience and all trained, and so he's looking for another trained one. The ambulance is back, it's been fixed and back and up and operating, so he's somewhat happy now that everything's in line for the moment anyway. Nothing on conservation, there's a meeting Thursday. Highway department, there's nothing out there that he doesn't already cover all the time, so.
You said anything?
You're here as much as we are.
Public Works, Joe, Public Works.
That's it.
All right.
So I'm gonna meet with Paula next week, and she's caught up with the audit this week, so.
Yeah. That was obviously why I know Public Works Director had planned on installing some of the curtains or the fabric, and that conflicted with the audit going on this week and them using this room.
Yep, right, because they're in here. So Kingston Days, we were counting on a title sponsor, but they fell through. So, we're regrouping and coming up with other plans for getting sponsorships. They're trickling in, but not quick enough.
You were looking for a major.
Yeah.
Like a gold level sponsor.
Yeah. We have like all these levels, and we were counting on the title, which was 10K, and that fell through. So we're regrouping, we're coming up with a new kind of marketing plan and a strategy to really, like one of those big red thermometer things, just more visuals and more to come. We have a meeting on Thursday, so, yeah, and that's it.
Before I forget, and I'm not sure it's not really related to liaison stuff, but it is a question regarding building inspection. Did Jess ever complete the inspection at the self-storage facility with regard to lights and so forth before he left?
I was told he had gone out,
He went out there.
I don't know if we had anything in writing as a result of what he found.
Nothing in writing that I saw. I asked him about it, and he said they were going to turn the lighting down, so it's facing down lighting.
Which is the way it was supposed to be installed.
And then there were already
Still
some
not.
trees out there, so he thought they were working on that, but he didn't really.
I don't know if there's any trees that have been planted. I think overgrowth is just starting to blossom.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that was the expectation.
The desire.
The desire, yes, that those would just grow, and that would be fine. Okay. I just didn't want it to fall through the cracks, because if it didn't get followed through, we need to follow.
Yeah, so we could have Kyle re-follow up on that, take a look at it if it was left in limbo.
Yeah. Just as an aside, how the new guys fitting in, filling in, or.
So it seems to be going well.
I think it was a little awkward on Wednesday when we didn't have, one of us should have been there to introduce him around.
Well, he knew what he was going into.
You think so?
Yeah, he's personable.
All right.
He did make a comment that after being there, he caught up on some stuff that was kind of ready to be either signed off on or reviewed.
Was this
after he was there for 3 hours, and he mentioned to me, so what did this full-time person do the other 37 hours of the week?
Oh no! Oh no!
That's not a fair statement.
No, and I think he's trying to calculate the work volume, and I think he was just concerned, does this really need to be a full-time position? And I said, well, you need time to see how it ebbs and flows.
I mean, he's just looking at a bunch of stuff in front of him right now. So
Correct.
Right, he's not getting the full.
He hasn't gotten the full flow of it yet, so.
Right.
But I think, so it'll be good to see. It seems like, he did handle some outstanding items and.
Was this Mike or Kyle?
Kyle.
Well, the steel's up on that building over 25, so obviously that got remedied.
Yeah. Yeah, they were waiting, they had everything ready to go.
Oh, no, they were just waiting, they
Yeah.
said by the other day, the steel call.
But yeah, other than that, it seems like you're going well. I know Kyle did recommend, said he was just gonna bring something before the board about, us entertaining assigning a backup to, Dave, because if he goes out on a vacation, he's like, you really need a certified plumber, to sign off on anything, especially dealing with gas and piping. He's like, I wouldn't feel comfortable. So he goes, I've been a builder for 30 years, and I wouldn't feel comfortable signing off on gas stuff if we didn't have somebody around and available. So that I think they're going to maybe bring forward a proposal of somebody that could, if days away on a vacation or not available, that we have a backup that could
How did we do that in the
that.
past? Did we have a backup plumbing inspector?
No, I think people just kept coming down and bothering Susan and Tori and asking why they didn't have their permits that they needed to move forward.
Robert would sign off on stuff.
Oh, did he?
Some could.
So he obviously felt comfortable enough to sign off on it. I just think the group that we have right now, like that particular piece there, they said, you know, they'd really feel more comfortable. They don't want somebody's house to blow up because they didn't fully understand what they were inspecting. Yeah.
So that's another question to that. Just thinking of that. It was mentioned today about Dennis Quintel being away or out or whatever. I don't, he didn't say a week, a day, or a month. Do we have a backup person?
No.
Again, that's something that I just need to.
But that's something that, you know, that's a town engineer thing, and we have enough other resources, folks that we've worked with, civil engineering firms, that we could reach out to.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think in situations before, either if there was a conflict, we've had to reach out to another. Because there could be a time where Dennis is bringing forward a project, he's the engineer for it for the applicant. So we already have the ability to bring it to another engineer firm to look at.
Yeah, we have people to call.
Yeah. Yep. Any other liaison reports?
So we talked about it briefly, so when, I noticed that there's not a liaison for human services, right? And I don't understand why, because that's a department. And, you know, I said I would do it, but that's kind of really informal, so can we discuss like why is there not a liaison for her? Or for that department?
Quite frankly, whenever the director had a need for something, she'd go directly to the select board, whether she needed to change her budget. Ellen was there for a number of years, so we really relied on Ellen just to keep the board informed. And so this is Marissa's first year. So is there more of a disconnect? Maybe, but I think she comes directly to us anyway, to one of us. The chair was, I know it was Richard before.
I mean, do we want to just make somebody available as a liaison if she
I think
feels
that's
she needs it?
appropriate.
I mean, I'll do it. I mean, I would love to do it. I was just, I mean, just to be standard, right?
There's no reason why there isn't one,
Yeah.
except that we had someone in the position for 30, 25 years.
Right.
I'm fine with Lori doing that if she'd like to do that.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll just call her?
call her and say, hey, we recognize that you didn't officially have a liaison, so if you need to bring anything to us, or you just want to keep me apprised of items that aren't big enough where you think you need to come to the meeting, but want to push forward.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine.
Because until last year, we didn't even have department head meetings.
Yeah.
Right.
So that has changed the flow of information
Get
and
all
improved it
formal.
dramatically.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
All right.
Big boy pants.
Right.
Moving on to old business.
Okay.
I know we were gonna discuss the POET, point of entry. Treatment system applications, so take it away.
Okay. So, I think everyone here at the board is aware that we applied to see if we were eligible to receive grant money for putting in point of entry treatment systems into the houses that don't have them yet. And we were deemed eligible. They accepted our proposal, they accepted our dollar amount of $288,000, and that money has been earmarked for us and set aside, with the understanding that we then need to file a final application. I've got it almost done. I worked on it over the weekend. I needed a couple of pieces of information from Paula. I got them today. I need a piece of information from Sanborn Head, which I reached out to them, and as soon as I get that, it'll be done, and it's all done online. So if the board is still comfortable with me finishing that step, I will do that step.
Yes, I am.
Please. We're saying thank you.
So the process from this point forward is that I suppose, you know, there's always the possibility of something going awry or some kind of a hitch, but the money has been set aside, so that shouldn't be an issue. And they had no issue with our eligibility request. And in my conversation, and Friday afternoon, I spent time on the phone with DES, and I walked through the entire application question by question, asking questions. So I was pretty much ready to fill it out once I got done with that. So that got filled out. I'll finish it up tomorrow or the next day, get it process from that point forward is that DES has its own internal review to go through. They will be drafting up contracts, which we will then be getting and probably having our council involved in, because, you know, we wouldn't want to sign anything without that. These contracts have to be approved by governor and executive council because it's over $10,000 and it's a state contract. The governor and council doesn't meet very often in the summertime, and in DES's estimation, if we got the application in the next week or so, they couldn't get contracts drafted up and into queue for governor and council until probably a council meeting in August.
Which is what you referred to with Dan, correct?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, which is later than I had expected. My plan was that we could get it done, get the contracts done late June or July, but because of the GNC schedule, it's going to be August. Once that contract is approved at governor and council, then we can crank it right up. We can get we can do our RFP process. We can select a vendor, get a program going, get the systems installed. And we had to estimate in the application, we had to provide an estimate of when we thought we could be done, and I targeted end of October to have it done.
Yeah, just because if we have to go to RFP and
Right.
have a timeline to
I
install.
guess why can't we do the RFP now?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question. Have it already
Because
done?
until you have the authority and the funding, I don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, but you can draft it and,
Proposals and get the, it doesn't mean you're gonna award them or do them.
yeah, or even release it.
Get it ready to go.
You can have a draft ready to go.
Well, that, I'm just saying.
A lot of funding sources, public funding sources, don't allow you to start that process until you actually have the authority.
Yeah, so if you're engaged in anything, it almost disqualifies you because they feel that you're now just trying to use public funds to do with something that you're going forward with anyway. And it kind of ties you up in it.
But Mike, I think what I'm hearing both Laurie and Susan say, can we draft our proposal without going outside of our town?
Yeah, so when they say you're good to go, we have
I
it,
think we
yeah.
could draft what we hope it would
Yeah.
look like. We
Yeah,
just
yeah,
can't put it out
Yeah, exactly.
for anyone to
Yeah,
see.
Yeah, that's what I heard them say.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least get the work done so that when we get the approval,
You're just plugging in the numbers or whatever and you can
the
put it out on
document
the
is
street.
basically set.
Yep.
If that's okay, if you don't think that's a violation of
No,
any-
I think that's fine. It's just if we put out anything,
No, we can't do
it
that.
would
No, no,
almost,
no.
it could almost, it
No.
has potentially to disqualify us.
Right, and but it's not the intention, I don't think.
Yeah, not at all. It's just like, let's do the legwork now, so then when we get the final information, we can release it. So how much, I know that how much are we gonna save from not providing water to people? What does that cost?
You're not gonna save anything.
Sure
Well,
we
no,
are.
I mean, because we're providing.
Drinking water.
We're providing drinking water that's not reimbursed by a grant right now.
So how much are we spending every month for that? I
I
don't.
have to ask Paula what it is, because the people order it directly through the water company.
But I understand for bottled water, it's pretty substantial because nobody wanted to deliver.
Because that's just, I mean, that's a cost savings. If we think we can wrap this up by end of October,
Yeah.
we're talking 3 months worth of I'm imagining, I saw my neighbor get his water delivered, holy moly, like pallets worth of water.
Yeah, well, we're also watering animals there too.
Yeah, so that's cost savings. I'm just wondering what we are spending on that.
We could find that out.
Yeah.
I want to say it was over $100,000.
Because that's
Yeah,
more
I
than
mean,
our surplus.
it's gonna be a savings in many respects.
Right.
Not the least of which is that, under this grant, you get to first year of maintenance.
You get 1 year of maintenance,
Cover
but
1
then
year.
that maintenance goes back into your budget, which is what we're spending on water, so we get a year's relief is basically the.
You know what, we have one of the Poet systems, and when we took it over, because we weren't getting reimbursed right away, if I remember correctly, it was only like $2K for a filter replacement. and
Yeah, but
checking.
times 26 homes.
It's probably
Yeah,
still cheaper
yeah.
than,
Oh, yeah.
that's once a year, as
Yes.
opposed to $20,000 a
The
month.
filters
for
are more
water.
frequently. I have a system and we change the filters 4 times a year.
Okay,
And I'm one person in my house,
yeah.
so.
So, no, so this is all from it. So I think the other
Yeah.
thing we just need to make sure of is, are we at a point where we need to reach back? I mean, obviously you need to get information from Sanborn Head. Should we also be engaging with them about, do they need a final decision from us on what goes in, did we have to give them any additional guidance for what goes in that report and how, because of how we're proceeding?
No, the report has been finalized and submitted to DES.
Okay.
That's done. What we still need to decide, though,
is these additional add-on things,
correct,
which I think we all seem to be in agreement that we needed to go down that road.
We do.
It was just when we wanted to.
Because without that, we don't have a good idea of where this stuff is going.
Yep, that's the water flow test.
Yeah.
We need to do that, absolutely, we need to do
So
that.
immediately, so I guess then, where is that money coming from?
Did we take that out of ARPA funds?
It's gonna have to come.
It's gonna have to come out of ARPA funds, and maybe the offset of what we have budget to continue that is gonna be savings and, you know, some of the savings that we
Or
get
from
from
contracted services?
We have the $60,000 grant money, which is not accounted for, in the sense it wasn't in the budget, because we didn't know it happened, so that's an additional amount of money that's.
Now, is Sanborn Head gonna be the one installing and performing those wells, or are they recommending, or what's the cost of that? Do we have to put that
I
up?
think that would be another,
They had the cost on there.
They did, they had the.
28 to 34,000.
I think they have to have a contractor to actually do that.
Yeah, so if it's over 25, we have to put that out to RFP.
So,
Unless it's absorbed in their cost, I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
well, no, just that there's one more step that I need this board to do, so that I can submit that application. Then, once we do that, then we can talk about whatever else we want to do with this. But, so I have a motion to read, and I'm gonna make the motion, and then we'll see where it goes. And this is taking a lot of wording right from DES. So I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the town of Kingston to accept grant funds. And Susan, I'll give this to you so you don't have to.
Good, thank you.
To accept grant funds from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for PFAS remediation. Application, it's our reference number, PRLF-37. That's the number that they've assigned to us. It's a reference number. And to authorize the Kingston Select Board Chairperson to be the authorized representative to execute any documents which may be necessary to effectuate the grant agreement.
Second.
All right.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Glenn, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, and
I appreciate your.
And the only reason I like, and normally I'd be like, oh, well, you can sign, but I think just in case anything happens, that whoever's in the chairperson seat can sign it.
Exactly.
Because if we just put your name on it and then some reason you were unavailable or had some type
It's
of
best to
emergency,
be
we
the
don't
chair.
know yet, so.
Well, see, I was fine with doing the steps.
Yeah,
that
the
we've done up to this
pre-application.
point.
Yeah.
But any of the contractual documents really should be the chair, so that's why it's that way. And rather than an individual's name, just in case.
Yeah, correct.
It's whoever's sitting in that seat.
Because you might be on vacation and Chuck will have to sign. There you go.
So, Susan, this goes in the minutes, and then as soon as you have the minutes ready, I need to attach those minutes to the application.
I'll do this part first.
Thank you. Because that'll probably be the last item I need to submit, so as soon as you have it.
You want it off your table.
We'll do it tomorrow.
Yes.
And the town needs this done, so,
Right.
yes.
And that way you can look at Mr. Doyle and say, yes.
I
it's
know
in
exactly,
process.
because, residents are very concerned.
Oh, clearly, as they should be.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other old business? New business, the water filter placement and maintenance information from WaterTechs, and that email is in our packets.
It's interesting that they have, I guess, a sign off from DES, or that's their company from the state, and authorized and all that stuff. And I guess they made mention of working in Strata, and I'm wondering if, and I know you've got to go get the RFP, put it out the bid and all that, but whereas these guys have kind of indicated whatever their pricing is.
Yeah, it could be like state bid pricing, so.
Obviously, they're right or wrong, they're qualified by the state. It's got some merit, and so I don't know if it's worth.
Well, I ran it by DES.
Yeah.
I sent them the communication, and I asked them to please comment on it, because from what I was reading, we were sort of being encouraged to just work with them, the vendor, and not necessarily go out to bid. And plus they were referencing some pre-qualification through DES, and I wanted to make sure that I knew what DES said about it. So here's DES's response. This is from the PFAS administrator. New Hampshire DES does not approve treatment vendors. We have a list of vendors that is compiled based on whether the vendor asked to be listed. Their inclusion is not an endorsement from New Hampshire DES. The state treatment contractor right now is Advanced Radon Mitigation, parentheses, the water techs, who went through an RFP bidding process and was selected. The bidding process is required by rule, DES, and they cite the whole thing. The vendor selected will also have to have the treatment design approved by Drinking Water Ground Bureau at DES prior to proceeding with the installation.
Okay.
Please let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, so we're still on the right track. We gotta go to, we gotta go to RFP. I mean, if they wanna submit that they already have experience dealing with this as part of the RFP process, that would be relevant.
And the fact that they're, you know, I mean, they are clearly involved heavily with DES, and they've been vetted through them.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe one of our items on the RFP they need to be on that pre-vetted list.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
DES.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That might be a good requirement for the RFP.
Yep.
Okay, any other new business? Board business, review of the budget, 5-month totals in the packet.
So, I guess that's me. I have gone through this, all updated up through May, 5 months as of the 3rd. 40%, as you look at it, is about where the budget should be. Or under. And when we get to the end of it, overall budget's like 39.4%. So, you know, overall, where we should be. And I was looking at the revenue, it's hard to judge, that's at 50%, but keep the items in there, sales tax, room and board sales tax and stuff. So it's hard to worry too much about the revenue. The car revenue seems to be in line with about what it would be from last year. So I can't worry too much about that. But if we look at some of these, and I will go through them relatively quickly, but in some of it is things on there that I have seen that I have no idea why it's there. I think some of it we get to the wrong line item or something, but basically just kind of looking at it to see where under the executive, most everything there is, you know, 38, very low percentages except for contract services. So I'm assuming that they're issuing more of their contracts now than later on in the year, because they're at 66%.
Yeah, a lot of those are front-loaded as annual contracts.
Yeah.
And the only other question is, why are we paying penalties? I don't understand. We paid $180 in penalties. I don't know where. Again, not relevant to anything other than my own little brain that says, why would the town be paying penalties?
Which page are we on, Chuck?
Executives.
Page 3, 4130-21, near the bottom, listed as 180%. I mean, yeah, we obviously have a line item for penalties, so we assume that there's some.
If I remember correctly, from a year and a half ago or so, sometimes bills go to the department head as opposed to coming internally to the office here to Paula.
Okay, so it could be a late payment penalty.
Correct. That's what it's been in the past, or it was last year, let's put it that way. And the goal was to try to minimize that, obviously, because we needed a better procedure. That's something that Paula would be able to answer for us.
So it's 180%. However, it's $80.15.
Yeah. It was just the penalties. It wasn't the percentage that was right.
It was just, the subject, the line item itself.
There is a lot of little ones like that.
Yeah. It's not a lot of money, but that's what I know what had happened in the past. The bills went awry.
And the other, then we go to the next page, it's got solid waste task force, and there's nothing there. The only other question I had was town reports. We spent $1,107, we budgeted only $1,000, and I thought we budgeted $1,800 for the town report.
Yeah, I thought so too, I thought it was more than.
That's a curiosity, and again, not relevant, I mean, it's 110%, so obviously we overspent it, so it's just a question, I'll ask the question.
Well, if you remember the town reports, we went with color, and that cost more.
Right, and that, but
yeah, we just thought the budgeted amount was more.
I thought we budgeted 1,800 because we.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay.
Other than the color might have put it over, but anyway, we'll check on that.
Okay.
But it's still, you know, the 42%, so the elections. Now, the only question I have on the elections is, we had one in March, we don't have another one this year, correct?
No, we don't.
Okay, that answers that. They're at 61%, but the only thing they have to cover is the supervisor of the checklists.
And
money.
that probably should have been paid, but I know that we might have been looking into, the new voting machines. The state is approving new machines now that we may be accessing and having the ability to purchase. So that could be, I mean, I would have to check with Tammy with that, but.
Yeah, if there was another election, we would talk about, but there isn't another
No,
election.
but I know we had talked about increasing the budget to purchase the newer model machines. This may be part of it. It won't be the whole amount, that's for sure. And there shouldn't be much of anything else. There will be some time for supervisors, only because you're gonna have to update the checklist as we go further, but this year, there will be nothing else.
No, they get their payment at the end of the year, so.
Yeah, but
$1,600. So anyway,
There'll be a primary
next year, there are 4. Next year's budget will be higher. The primary, town election, state primaries, general, federal election. So there are 4 elections next year.
So, and again, that may be a department that there's some extra funding there as we do this again in the fall.
Except that, as I said, we were looking at new machines.
I would imagine the machine's gotta be very expensive. It's not figured in here, right?
Yeah, that
It's
doesn't look like that would be
$1,000
budgeted.
for a
I
machine.
imagine we're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So,
Oh, yes.
the financial administration, the only question there, we've got assessing at 150% and audit at 16%. And, assessing's been paid $32,000 and we only budgeted $21,000. So there's something awry there that I'll have to look at. The audit, and if you combine them, it's okay. Because the audit, which they're doing now, so far we paid $2,600. We budgeted 16, so we're okay there. But I don't know if the auditing and assessing need to be.
They're doing the audit this week.
Yeah, they just started the audit,
Right,
so.
but the assessing
Well,
$32,000, right?
I have to look at the contract, is it more, I think it might be more in the 5th year, because this is the reval year.
But we should have budgeted.
It should have been,
That's all, I'm just trying to figure out, if we
Should have
didn't
been
budget for
written
it,
out.
then there's another one we didn't budget for.
I hope we don't have too many more of those.
I'll look at the contract if you want.
Just-
See any different.
Computer maintenance is at 96%, so I'm assuming that we don't have any more problems with the computers, maintenance-wise.
Well, that's probably a front end.
Prepaid contract,
Right,
yeah.
probably.
Forms and envelopes is at 70%. That's a little early to be at 70% for whatever reason.
Yeah, but we had this, I mean, that's what the tax mailers just went out.
But the point is, we've got more to go, and we're 70% of that. Now, for the overall, your overall budget is up 45%, is at 45%, so we're still fine for the total money for that department. Legal is at 52%, but as we know with legal, and we have 2 potentially quasi-big issues coming up that we're gonna have to hit with the ZBA and the historic district, but we do have an extra fund for that, so we shouldn't have to, if it goes over what we budgeted, we'll be able to take from that extra, I forget what they, so there's a legal fund, it's got $130,000 in it, so, we should be okay. Legal, yeah, personnel administration is okay, that, we don't have no choice on that anyway, and they're at 46%, the benefits, social security, etc. Planning and zoning, they kind of combine all these. Legal ads, again, planning board legal ads, they've spent $1,600, they budgeted $1,800, so they're at 90%. So again, not that they don't have money to take out of the fund, but.
Well, don't forget there are fees, thank you, I'm sorry.
It's income coming.
Well, there's revenue to offset that.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and you have no control over that number because depending on the number of hearings that you have, but there are fees that cover those costs, so it's not out of pocket to the town. And I think we went up on the fees this past year for the notices because of postage.
So we don't, overall, between planning and HDC and ZBA, it's like 28%. So there isn't really any problem there. Again, maybe the fact that there's a little extra there at the end of the year.
And there may not be,
and there may
depending on the hearings.
Government buildings. Nothing. Nothing, that's at 25%. No, actually, it's, I don't know how this is. Salaries, capital equipment. Anyway, there's nothing there. Oh, it goes on. The only question I had there, well, only observation, everything there is fine, it's in line. Heat and services, they've spent $1,000, we budgeted $25,000, so that's at 4%, but I'm not sure if that's heat for all the buildings or what it entails. But I'm assuming that's the heat for the town building.
The majority of that is gone when we sign our contract with Dowling and have our agreement payment for them. So
Right.
almost $11,000 for that.
And there's, I think this is, there's a separate line then for the actual heat. Was that actual heat included in that? You know, the heat for the buildings?
For government buildings or highway?
Government buildings. I'm looking.
Yes, government buildings.
Okay, utility, well, this is electric, so I'm assuming that's the heat. When we go down, everything is, paper and cleaning supplies is at 57%, that's the only thing that jumped out there. And I'm assuming you buy in bulk when you buy that stuff. The interesting fact, under the utilities, it says electric, which is specific to all the buildings, and the Nichols building is the highest. Nichols building and recreation. Nichols building, we're working on to get the heat and the stuff replaced, and that was all from, I'm sure, last winter. I don't know why the recreation building is $1,700, and town hall is $2,900 for electric. I guess what we'd have, and we budgeted for that $25,000. So the electric is at 27%. So again, we're significantly under that if we should be at 40% for that. At least this is. What?
Yeah, don't complain because it's less than, well, the bill hasn't get posted yet.
Don't tell Phil
Don't,
that.
don't mess with a good deal, you know?
Cemeteries, again, no contracted services with Butler, spent $2,500, budgeted $24,000. The question I have there, it's got salaries, since you're here, Phil. Salaries part-time with no money in it. Is that coming under your budget now? Kind of, okay. Millstream, no money. COLA, no money. And we may show up in the highway, but other than that, it's at 9% for cemeteries. Millstream's paid out $750. Expenses 164, and it's all within budget, so. Well, I think when we get to highway, I think the labor shows up there, but it's gotta be.
We have 3 outstanding invoices from the trustees that have not been paid yet for cemetery subcontractor.
Okay, which is you. Okay, yeah, I just did. Insurance is okay there. The next line item, which shows, other general government, and again, it may be that there's invoices there. The thing that jumps out is gasoline. We spent 26,000, we budgeted for 90, and it's at 29%. So we're 5 months into the year, that's a pretty good spot to be in. If there aren't 3 invoices for, you know, a lot of money for gasoline.
Please don't jinx us, please.
So, I mean, we're in good shape with that one.
Yeah.
Police department.
I would get too ahead. I mean, you're running into a season where all of Phil's equipment's gonna be running nonstop, trying to get everything done for the good weather season.
Well, their invoices about 2 months behind.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay.
celebrate early.
Yeah.
I think, however, my opinion is when we do this come end of November or December, while we're in budget season, or we do it beforehand, we maybe I publicly announce that fact so that those invoices can be put into the actual budget, so we're sitting here knowing exactly what it is versus worrying about invoices for a lot of money being out there.
Correct.
So, police department, their overtime is up to 50%. However, there's 2 new people working full-time now, which he was covering for them before, so that'll get in line. Computers up 119,983%.
That's because there was $1 in the line.
His electric is 2,100, so it's at 20% of what we budgeted after that. I think his heat might be on the next page. Yeah, his heat is spent 1,739, budget of 48, so it's at 36%. So they're in the margin of what we want them to be. And again, there may be invoices out there, but I don't want to tell him that, but his budget's at 36%, so he's still out. Fire department, same thing as overtime, is up 50%. His electric is spent 8,066, budgeted 20, so he's at 40%. Equipment repairs is up 203%. Just probably a lot of that for the ambulance stuff. His heat is 8,000, budgeted 14, that's at 56%. But that's obviously with all the adjustments of heat and floor, and some of it working and some of it not working. And again, his overall is actually his overall is 28%. If this is right, town inspectors is at 39%. I guess I'd ask the question of, we spent $1,872 for dues when we budgeted 200.
I think some of those numbers might be skewed because I think a lot of that came from books, but it may have been considered part of it may have had to be purchased as a due because it was a requirement of those certification courses that we had to buy all the materials for.
So the books and the dues would be interchanged.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
But it's 39%, so there's not very good. Emergency management's okay. Highway department. Salaries, everything is, salaries and overtime is 47%, so a little bit. Electricity, 1,700, budgeted 9, so it's only at 19%. Dumpster rentals, $3,000, we budgeted $4,000, that's at 74%. All the dumpsters are out for the year, right? No, just kidding.
We were cleaning up the state shed, so that we had to rent additional dumpsters for that cleanup. There's no spare money in the sanitation line item, so that.
No, right. But the electricity's like, I mean, way under. Other than that, yeah.
So while you're on that topic, and why hang out, were there any questions on the Bell and Flynn or the Allstate Materials PO for paving?
No, that was under, we were gonna go over that under correspondence, but I know we had all we had talked about the Bell and Flynn contract. That was the heating, was that, oh, that was the paving contract. So if anyone needs to take a look at that, if we had any questions, I think we were all in pretty much agreement of extending that during the last meeting at the Director of Public Works recommendation. So if nobody has any issue with it, I did sign off on it as they were looking for just one authorized rep.
And one thing on that, we will not be doing South Road this year. We're doing it in conjunction with Brentwood, and they don't have enough money to finish their end of South Road, so we're actually going to do Raleigh Falls Road.
Okay, does that need to be amended here?
So,
do we need to amend that, or?
no, it'll just be like, there's not a PO attached to it.
Yeah.
We'll just be invoicing, or we're sending POs as we do the projects.
Okay.
3 blocks probably.
So your heat is at $5,000, budgeted 9, and it's 57%. The heat's a little. That's for all the buildings there, right? I know the dog pound we looked at, the heat's not even turned on there, right?
That's heated through the police, but they haven't used enough gas there. I think it was 3 years ago that was filled up. But that heat is only for our buildings and the public works area.
So actually, the overall signs and barricades at 80%.
We'll be over that this year. We've been replacing, there are a lot of signs that are no longer visible, certainly do not meet traffic standards, so we're replacing those as necessary, and then as we're prepping for paving, there's a lot of road signs that, on those routes specifically, that need to be replaced.
But overall, it's 30%, so it's still not.
Well, let's get to the good one.
Because all the bills aren't in yet, just don't hold your breath now.
Street lighting is at 27%. Other than that, sanitation.
So on the street lighting, since I'm here,
What's
I've been removing street lights, ones that have been out for years. Then we turn them off. Obviously, nobody needs them if they haven't been on for a few years.
And nobody's complaining.
And there's been ones that are on very minor traveled cul-de-sacs that have lights in front of people's houses that we're paying $27 a month to illuminate people's yard. So I've been slowly canceling those as well. So my goal it should be about 10 to 12% lower next year on that.
Good.
Welcome to the country, no lights.
So the solid waste disposal line is at 106%. Is that due to the extra stuff? No, that is.
That's because we didn't budget enough last year, remember?
Yeah,
That's due to our getting railroaded in our contract and the commodities market shift.
So we're paying that monthly, correct?
Correct.
Whatever the amount was that they were, 84,000 or something, or whatever it was, they're paying it monthly rather than all at once.
I think 80. Well, no. It's about, depending on the commodity price, it's been between 10 and 16 grand extra a month beyond the 50 that we were paying
that much
previously.
Okay.
So are we now looking at, based off of these numbers, are we looking at $160,000 shortfall at the end of the year, or are we still in the 80 to 90 ballpark?
The commodity price has been coming up, so it's not the worst case scenario, but I have not, I mean, it's kind of, it is what it is.
I mean, but based off of these percentages, do we need to prepare for $160,000 plus shortfall.
I don't believe so, but I will find accurate numbers for you and email that to the board this week.
Because that is not good.
Health Department, mosquito control is starting now, so that changed.
I hope you guys are listening next time I have another solid waste and on the budget committee next time, that's all.
Was that, but that was, what year was that?
It was December.
Yeah.
So what?
No, you got, yeah, something got changed, it shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Exactly correct.
Expert analysis is not so expert.
Well,
I appreciate expert analysis.
what did Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify? It works.
So I'm supposed to be getting numbers from waste management at the end of this week. That'll give us a more clear picture. That should have us up to April, so we'll have a 4 month track, kind of after trajectory of what we're looking at.
Just as since we're on solid waste, just as an aside, this was a holiday week because it was Memorial Day on Monday. So everything's supposed to be shifted. So Thursday is my pickup day. And I knew that I had to put my stuff out on Friday. Well, on Thursday, the truck's coming by. And I happened to be at the roadside when the truck is going by, and I looked at him, and he stopped. And I said, why are you out today? He said, well, it's kind of a hot week. He says, I thought I'd get a head start.
But people don't know that.
But he said, don't worry, I'll be back tomorrow. But he's running the route twice.
That happens every year. People call and say, I thought you said, and they always say.
That's got to be built into the cost. Why is he doing it twice?
That's the drivers, and especially now that with the automated pickup, they're getting through their routes a lot quicker.
Right.
They're not just doing Kingston, there's like 4 routes they run in the area. So what they will do is when it's hot, if people put it out, they go to, if they have extra time, they will go and kind of pre-run their route. If someone puts stuff out early, they'll go to dump it so that they, it doesn't stink and they can have a quicker day on Friday.
Interesting.
I was amazed that he stopped and he told me what was going on. Because he probably saw the look on my face as I was looking at him. What?
Usually they call us. Or now it's.
Yeah, we've got many calls.
Okay, thanks.
So water cooler rentals, which I'm not quite sure what that is.
It's bottled water. It's just bottled water, the big 5-gallon jug sitting on top of it.
I know what that is, but why are we spending $6,000 for bottled water? Are they in the town building? Is the water being delivered?
Yeah, there's one. Aren't there ones downstairs?
Yeah, there's one
Yeah.
here.
Well, I
There's
understand,
building.
$6,000 worth for 5 months. I'm asking the question. Budgeted aid, it's at 74%.
Is
So
that doesn't.
Right here with you, Jack.
What are you telling
Yeah,
them?
that's-
You can tell those guys not to drink water?
That doesn't include the water we're supplying to the residents, does it? Is that,
well,
that's
I'm
a,
asking the question.
that's a different line.
So
It's not enough, I don't think, to cover the residents.
No, it wouldn't be enough.
we're installing water bottle filling stations at the rec center, so that should remove them, because they go through a lot of water in the summer when the kids are there, but that's a certified drinking point tested by the DES, so they can get it from the water bottle filling station this year and moving forward.
And that's on their own well?
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, it's a certified drinking point that's tested quarterly by the DES, so that's being installed next week. So that should remove some of that, and then when we get the health officer on board, I'd like to get all the buildings tested, and if the water's good, probably don't need to be buying water. It is absolutely ridiculous what we spend on water. Water is $5.99 a gallon, or $5.99 for a 5-gallon bottle of water. So it's but with the fuel surcharge and everything, it's like $1.59 a gallon for water, which is ridiculous.
And it's here, and it is what it is. It's gonna go over on that, well, we may not go over now when we get those in. Pest control is okay, human services, general assistance is at 14%, which is good for the winter months. Social agencies, they don't do till the end of the year. Parks and Recreation is at 35. My only question there is telephone and internet is at 55%, and it's $1,100. We budgeted 2,000. So I don't know. What do they have for telephone there? Or is that for his phone? Curious, anyway, it just seems to be, and they have internet there, and the internet is for Paul? I mean, they don't have social events, not like the library.
I mean, but they have a TV there. They have a, I mean,
What do they do?
any home these days that has cable and internet is almost a $200 bill a
Yeah,
month.
yep.
Okay. The library is at 34%.
Just my one question on the library is just under pay per performance, it shows a pay per performance line of $1, but was that not accounted for somewhere else?
They eliminated pay for performance.
Right.
Okay, but they still spent it this year, according to this.
Yeah, they just called it a raise, bonus, whatever. They did not call it pay for performance.
Okay.
They went up a higher percentage
So
in the
it'll
raises.
just have to be covered under salaries.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Museum is. Is all right, yeah, 29% heritage is fine. Conservation is fine. So, bottom line is where the overall budget is 39.4%. As of the end of May. So statistically, we're right where we should be for 5 months.
But I think that the message that is going to be at the end of the year is not, if you have money in your budget, get some things out of it that you may not need to put in next year. It's going to be, if you have monies that you have not spent, we may be reallocating those to pay for shortfalls and solid waste collection and anything related to any of the PFAS and stuff that we still have to absorb the cost on, so.
Can we reallocate without restriction at the end of the year? Or is there money, when we set our budget, is certain money allocated just for this and you can't use it someplace else?
My understanding of the difference in between municipal budgeting and at the town level versus the county level is because we have line item budgeting, but it's not hard set. You essentially have a pool of money that is the final number, so it is much easier at the town level to reallocate towards other.
We can only expend what was actually authorized as a total amount.
Right.
And if we move things around, we can.
Okay.
But if the fire department has extra money and we needed to move it over the highway,
yep, we can do that. Okay.
As long as we don't overexpend what was authorized in March.
Okay.
The important thing is anytime we do that, we just need to clearly articulate why. So we're not just like, well, why is this line,
right.
Shouldn't be funding that.
Don't tell Graham we said that.
Now he'll be mad at me.
Okay.
All right.
Made it through that. Correspondence, let's see, we have the mosquito control memo, advising us that mosquito control services will be beginning June 8th. Does anyone have any questions regarding this?
So is this paid for in that line item for pest control? I'm a little confused. It is.
34,000.
Okay. Got it, okay.
So, no questions on that. Applications, we just, that one Ragnar application, we wanted that to go up to the department heads first before we decided on that. And we have a couple of purchase orders to be signed and reviewed. So one is by the fire chief. This is for the truck fill pump for filling trucks inside of the apparatus bay. So this is one pump and installation. It's going to come out of the building fund, which the current balance is $169,836.77. This purchase will be $9,869.40. So we'll have a remaining balance of almost $160,000. Does anyone have any questions about this? It is documented the line items and documented properly.
Is there backup to go with the PO?
It's just, this is the pump that, it's part of the building fund, they need, this is how they fill the trucks inside of the building.
I didn't know if there was a...
No
attachment.
Yeah, no attachment, I think this is part of the initial building plans.
Okay.
This one is, this is the yearly contract with Stryker. This is by the fire chief as well. This is maintenance contract for the following: 2 LifePak 15 monitors, 1 power load, and 1 still covered by manufacturer's warranty, and 2 power cots. This looks like this comes out to a total of $7,468, and this will be coming out of the ambulance revolving fund. So this is equipment that goes on the ambulances, part of the contracted services of that equipment on there. Yep. So if anyone wants to read through that, they can. And we have All States Construction. So this, the Highway Department, the Public Works Department, or is this officially Highway Department?
We'll fix that in the next podcast.
So this is for the chip seal that you talked about during that presentation. This is for Jericho Road, double chip seal, cost per square yard. So we're looking at a total of about $68,283.90, and then Williams Path, which will be a single chip seal, and the total of that one will be $19,794.50. So the total of this order is $88,078.40, and he has specified the 2 different line items that this will be coming out of. I assume, how does this get split out of the 2 line items? Is one for the actual?
One's out of the block grant.
Okay.
And then the other one. So the initial amount is to use up the actual budgeted line item, because we can carry the block grant forward.
Yeah, so that'll zero out that line.
Yep.
And then we have a current balance in the other one of $207,952.35, and this will take $9,093.40 out of that, leaving us just under $199,000. Did we have anything else under correspondence? Was there?
You want me to do the minutes approval in one motion?
I'd love it.
I move that we accept the minutes for public and non-public for May 15th, May 22nd, and non-public as well, and May 31st.
Second. Any discussion? Amendments? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Abstentions? Okay. All right, and we have, oh, that goes back in this. You guys get that one stuff. All right, we have the approval, and before we go into, was there any other business before we enter into non-public?
I had a question about when you want to convene the hiring committee, or is that, you want to talk about that later?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So obviously, Susan has numerous applicants for the building inspector code enforcement position. I believe you said 12? 12 wow. Applications so far.
That's great.
So maybe what we could do is send those out as a packet to all the hiring committee members for that position, and because I don't, like I said, I don't indeed can send people that are incredibly unqualified for jobs just because they auto-apply to anything within a certain salary range. So I'd like us to kind of pre-vet people that we're going to invite in for a further interview.
You want to vet them?
I'd say let's send it out to the whole committee, be like, hey, I'll get a consensus from them of, hey, is anyone in agreement that some of these don't need to be invited at all, or there's some that maybe stand out, because we may want to prioritize it. We may say we want to invite the top 3 to 5 candidates. We may have 10 qualified people, we may have 3 to 5 that really stand out. I don't want to go through 10 interviews if we don't have to.
Right.
We could always continue to go down the
Who
line.
did we end up with the interviewing committee?
Well, that was my next question, because I had some questions about who we ended up with, because it started out with one select board member, fire chief, DPW director, electrical inspector, plumbing inspector, assessing clerk, and one inspector from another town. And then there was discussion that it was too many. And then when Paula cut it down, it was only like 3 or 4. So I'm not sure who should be on there.
I think we need a select board member. I think it's important, I mean, the fire chief the fire chief does a lot of inspections and gives input, you know, according to building code stuff along those lines, so I think that's important as well.
Yep.
I think we do need an inspector from another town. I think one of our current inspectors, I don't think we need them both.
I think electrical.
Electrical, okay, yeah, because that will give us some input there. Yep. And how many does that put us at?
That's 4.
So I'd like a board of 5, just so it's not even. So then I would say the director of public works. I mean, he deals with a lot of the issues going on around town.
Okay.
So do you have standard questions that you ask, or to make it the same for each candidate?
The committee usually does. The committee will break it down into certain questions.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think when we do the pre-vetting, that's what I'd like us to just send out. What are the questions we're going to be asking? Because there does need to be a standard set of questions that we're asking all of them, and then if an answer requires follow-up.
Yep.
But we do need to stick to a script, so we're not creating an individual interview for maybe a specific candidate.
It takes the
It's never been done that way.
off too.
Yeah. Do we have a list of the questions that were used during the last hiring processes that we could base that off of and see what the committee members feel may need to be added or omitted?
I could see if I still have my notes from them back then.
Yeah, that'd be great if anything you could provide.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a series of questions for a lot of different jobs, none of them are really building inspector related.
That's true.
And on that one, how are you doing with the committee with the pay metrics or whatever we're doing?
Well, considering that we couldn't really finalize anything while our board got restructured numerous times over the past couple months, I don't think we ever got the finalization of who the members that the budget committee that was supposed to assign to it.
I did get, put that in here somewhere because we hadn't talked about it in a while. She did give me the 2 names.
Okay, so she gave us the names, and we have the representatives from the town department head. We have the department heads that were going to be involved in it. Previously, it was myself and Kevin, so I guess we need another select board member. And I know Ellie had expressed, because you were involved in it, you know, previously trying to get it started. So if there's no objection to that, we could have Ellie fill in for Kevin once.
Time to go to the woodshed.
So if we have that finalized, can we put a posting to the public that we're looking for members of the community?
Yeah.
Because how many members of the community did we end up
Did we want
on
2?
that list? I thought it was 2.
You don't want it to be too big.
So it's
She had about 7 I would imagine altogether.
Ellie and Chris from this board, Stacy Dion and Claudine Diaz are going to be the 2 budget.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the police chief and the fire chief.
And this was to do what?
This is a develop a wage matrix.
There was a way to come up and propose to the budget committee and the board of selectmen a pay matrix, essentially salary study, because a lot of us have issues with, I mean, I personally don't really like the pay per performance model. I'm not a big fan of annual evaluations as a whole, because I think they're a colossal waste of time. If you're not guiding or disciplining or promoting your employees as they go along, if you wait until the end of the year to do it, you're not doing your job.
Right.
So we talked about, you know, instead of hiring a company, which can be tens of thousands of dollars, if not up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how large you are, but we wanted to essentially get representatives where, you know, the police chief could elicit information from all the other police departments of neighboring size, scope, and all those things, the fire chief, so that we could come back to something so that instead of just having this random paper performance that can be subjective depending on who your supervisor is, that we we kind of establish pay salary studies, and maybe then we look at, make sure, because we had all these adjustments that happened throughout the year that were not budgeted for.
The last 2 years in particular, because
and a lot of it was due to the market, the labor market, because people could just walk to the next town and get substantial increases. So there was a lot of movement to try and retain people. And so we just want to make sure that we're in appropriate salary ranges if we need to get the budget committee and the board to make recommendations to vote on.
Are you basing that on years of experience in that as well?
Correct.
So you're going to do
There'll be a lot of factors.
kind of a scale?
Correct. So I had a lot of exposure to it when the county did one, and the county, you know, and obviously, because let's face it, you know, I can't, even though we have a population that's the same size in Carroll County, that obviously the cost of living in Rockingham County is significantly higher, so we want to make sure we evaluate things from there. But yeah, it'll be based off of years of experience in a position, so there'd be a pay range, and then we look at the different opportunities, and you know, some of it's going to be certification based, depending on those job fields. But
we used to have one many years, a number of years ago, a good 30 years ago, and we got out of the habit of using it for whatever reason. And so as we lost people to other communities, we didn't really keep up with the going wages. So that's why this last 2 years, we put a lot of money, expended a lot of money getting salaries up.
Yeah, and I will say,
want to stay there.
Like, it's helped with us. So with the county, we did it for all the non-union personnel, but we kind of took a lot of that pay salary study. We even adopted it to when we're looking at collective bargaining for salaries. So now it's nice. So we just had somebody that we're looking to make an offer to, and now instead of saying, we don't play the game anymore, the game used to be, how cheap can we get this person?
Right.
Well, if they're coming from a community that doesn't pay much, we may get somebody with 10 years of experience at the bottom of our pay scale, because it's still a pay raise for them. But now we don't do that. Now I say, on this pay chart, if you're a deputy or if you're a dispatcher and you have this many years of relevant experience, this is where I plug you in. And it's no longer, for us, it's really not a negotiation anymore. Like, this is what we can pay you, because if you try to negotiate over, we're going to disenfranchise our long-term employees that may have more experience than you, but we don't want to create a compression issue.
So you raise a good point. Are you looking at current salaries when you're developing this?
Yes, there will be a look at current salaries, the region as a whole, and other municipalities, and what they're paying, and it'll even be a look at collective bargaining agreements and salaries, in addition to those that don't have union shops as well.
Okay.
And that's why this is going to be a larger committee of even 7 people, because there's a lot of different job classifications.
That's a lot. I mean, and what's your timeline?
Hopefully to have something tangible that we can bring to the budget committee during this next budget season.
Okay.
How in-depth that'll be, and I think the committee is also going to say, hey, we're going to have to focus on different jobs, but I think it's going to be, even though Phil's not on the committee, we're going to reach out to him as the Public Works Director. Can you reach out to a similar sized Public Works Department and get some information that we can take and extrapolate that data and come up with some conclusions?
Right. So originally you had, I think, two board members, 2 department heads, and 2 members of the budget committee. So really, the department head's going to be fire and police.
It was, I was pretty sure that those 2 would sign up for it.
Yeah, I know Joel's already started working on it as now.
Yeah.
And then they'll get together on a preliminary meeting and choose some members.
Correct. And like I said, and this doesn't, it can be an even number on this, because this committee is just making recommendations for the board to submit or in review kind of at a group session with the budget committee.
Correct. And if you could put in the carriage town as well, to let them know that the public is welcome to send in a letter of interest. Put it on the Facebook and town website, Carriage Town.
I think the Municipal Association is also a good resource. I believe they do an annual
that's true.
salary study, salary benefit study. So might be a good resource for some information.
Thanks.
If you can not reinvent the
Yeah,
wheel, that would be fantastic.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm probably going to take a lot of data from the county's one, because I'm familiar with how it's compiled, and the county encompasses pretty much all, law enforcement, they have a huge medical and nursing home component, but they have law enforcement, they have engineering and maintenance folks, they have, I guess fire is really the one missing from them, but there's a lot of stuff that will transition from that, as far as administrative staff.
And some of them, depending on who did the salary scale, they do job descriptions too, so that helps to standardize that, so you don't have to recreate it every single time.
We have some older ones that we took in the last time we were talking about this, that I think Hampton might have done it through MRI, and it includes Kingston, so.
Yep.
But I will say my sincere hope is that I would have already had 6 weeks of either meetings or pre-meetings under our belt by this point, because we were really hoping to get rolling right after the election. We moved on in kind of those first meetings that started, but obviously we had to adapt and deal with things as they came up. Anything else on other business before we go into non-public?
Do we need to go into non-public?
We can hold it off, maybe if we wanna wait till next meeting. We have Paula's performance evaluation. I mean, they're gonna get back pay, it's all retroactive, so if we wanna wait till yours is complete, that way we can do hers and Paul's in the same meeting next week.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Okay, other than that, I don't have any other non-public. And it is getting late. All right, we're adjourned.